fighting against fascist Weasley lies, still lying through their eyes. Debating and chatting praxis, a massive fight for our comrades. Remember this line to bring up the hype, we all know that Vaush ride. We all know that Vaush ride. Mark slaps, libs mad, growing our numbers, there's no end in sight. We must achieve this victory, abolish these commodities. Automate, pigeon please, baby. Debating and chatting practice, a massive fight for our comrades. Remember this line to bring up the hype, we all know that Vaush ride. We all know that Vaush ride. We all know that Vaush ride. Debating and chatting praxis, a massive fight for our comrades. Remember this time to bring up the hype, we all know that Vaush ride. Debating and chatting praxis, a massive fight for our comrades. Remember this time to bring up the hype, we all know that Vaush ride. Debating and chatting praxis, a massive fight for our comrades. Remember this time to bring up the hype, we all know that Vaush ride. The workers' eugenics practice, a massive fight for our change minds. Cops with the massive right shot, take up, we all know that Vaush ride. The workers' eugenics practice, a massive fight for our change minds. Cops with the massive right shot, take up, we all know that Vaush ride.
You know, no matter how inherently masturbatory that song may be, I never get tired of hearing it. I think I've said this before, but it's not a surprise to me that, like the old kings, like, back in the monarchist days, they would always like commission songs themselves because hearing a song about yourself, oh wow, I am super blue. Hold on. Just a second. I was fucking with camera settings. We can turn that down. Doot 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 doot. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. It's been a little while, hasn't it? Tone it down. Tone it down. There we go. That's a more human skin tone. Howdy. I ordered some lights. We're going to be like revamping the entire stream light setup really, really soon, but the lights aren't in yet, so I've made the adjustment still pretty blue. Here, we'll turn it down even more. But the lights aren't fully in yet, so I'm just making like color correction adjustments. There we go. Look at that. Look at that human skin tone. Yeah, I was weak this time, folks. 1 week late. How y'all doing? I'm really sorry about my absence. I know that it's been an eventful couple of days. I mean, it's always going to be eventful. We're not going back to the Obama years, folks. We're never going to have a quiet couple of weeks again. Probably not for the rest of our lives. That's just how things are. So I'm sorry that I've been gone. I've had a bit of a cough. To those of you who are concerned about COVID, it's not COVID. I've been tested. I have a susceptibility to habitual coughs as a product of damage done to my respiratory system when I had tuberculosis when I was younger. It's nothing life-threatening, but it does mean every once in a while when I get a cough, it stays for a bit. Thankfully, over the years, I've gotten better at handling that cough, so whereas before, I shit you not, I once had a habitual cough for 6 months. It was in my senior year of high school. I remember it because every day when I went to work after school, I would have to bring an entire packet of cough drops. It actually ate up a decent chunk of my income because I would have to buy so many of them. Because it was work at a restaurant. So if you're coughing, of course, it's not good. But I need to save money for college. So anyway, I've gotten better since then, and now I can cut these things out in about 2 weeks. And even though I still have that cough right now, I can handle it well enough that I can stream at least for a little while. So I don't know if I'll be able to stream for a full 4 hours, but I'll do the best I can. How y'all doing? Good enough, I hope. Yeah, big cough drop trying to make their money off of me. Those motherfuckers. The CIA cough gun has long range. You know, they're able to hit me. I can't dodge it, folks. I'm sorry. I missed you guys. No, I did. I missed you guys, you know? And we have so much to talk about. I mean, we have an insane amount to talk about, and I know I'm not going to be able to talk about all of it. So let's get the simple stuff out of the way first, okay? First of all, yeah, I'm on the front page of Reddit. By the way, bullshit, okay? Fuck Reddit. You don't get any goddamn YouTube subscribers when you hit front page of Reddit, okay? I tweeted something about Thanksgiving, and it's at the front page with white people, Twitter, and with political humor. You don't get shit for being on Reddit, okay? When you can get 100,000 upvotes on Reddit, you can be on the front page, you can get tens of thousands of comments in the thread. It doesn't translate to a single fucking YouTube subscriber, okay? So fuck that. Get it out of here. Also, I'm not white. I voted for Biden. Deeply offensive. Deeply offensive. Yeah, you get moral superiority, and that's about it. What's the tweet? I think it said, nobody's trying to cancel Thanksgiving, you fucking weirdos. We're just cautioning you against killing your grandma. Anyway, it's a shame that Reddit doesn't translate into YouTube subscribers because we're on the cusp of 300,000. Hey, Kings and Generals. We're on the cusp of 300,000. But unless you guys are very diligent, I don't think we're going to be able to make that by the end of the month. Unfortunately, my absence from streaming has cost me algorithmically, but you know, we're certainly going to get it by the end of the year. Now, of course, if you guys are very, very good little Thanksgiving gremlins and you share and like and subscribe, then maybe we can defy fate and we can, you know, overcome and get me to 300K by the end of the month. But that's up to you guys, okay? I'm not going to waste your time with all that. Man, there's so much that I want to cover. Whew. Oh, God. Let me think. Oh, man. What order do I hit this in? Fuck me. I guess we should talk about Thanksgiving. That seems about right. Actually, there's something I want to talk about before we talk about Thanksgiving. Is there a video up on this? Hold on. Hopefully there is. Man, is there really not a video up on this? Fuck me, dude. Ah, yeah, because he wasn't able to stream it. God damn it. Does anybody have a link to the Twitch VOD of that guy who streamed Destiny's flight over to Georgia? Does anyone have a link to that? It was some other guy who streamed it. Destiny did not stream it himself. There was some other guy. Why would you say no? Like, why would any of you say no? Like, obviously, if you don't, I don't care. If I ask, hey, to the thousands of people who are watching, do any of you have something? And then one of you go, no, I don't. Do you think I fucking care if you do? I'm asking for people who do. Why would you waste my time? But, well, thank you for the clarification. I appreciate that. Let's see. That's a Rickroll. Very good. That's another Rickroll. Let's see. That's not relevant. We'll get to this later. All right, folks. Let's talk about Thanksgiving. First of all, I'd like to say to everybody, Happy Thanksgiving. This has never been a particularly important holiday to me. My extended family lives on the other side of the country, and usually it would just mean a great big meal for me and my immediate family, and it was always good. You know, my parents are good cooks. My dad actually used to work as a cook, so and now my little brother is literally a chef. So it's always good food, you know, better than anything I can make for myself. But apart from that, it's never really had much significance to me beyond the nice mood of food and the nice mood. Yeah, and the nice mood. Yeah, both of them, mood and food. They're always coming out, you know. But Thanksgiving means different stuff to different people. Some people assign some religious significance to it. People who care about Native American people can quietly reflect on the genocide this country is built on. Whatever, you know. To each their own. Have your fun. But generally speaking, Thanksgiving is about family. And I wanted to talk about family for a second, if I may. a lot of the people who are watching this stream right now, and many of the people who will be watching this YouTube video afterwards, probably don't have a good relationship with their immediate family. That's not an indictment of my audience. That's just a statistical fact. You know, if you have thousands of people watching, that's guaranteed to be the case. Now, I am very lucky. I have a great relationship with my family. It would be difficult for me to overstate how good of a relationship I have with my family. We're all great friends. We get along. We tell jokes. We have similar interests. We share hobbies. We encourage each other to be better at the things we like. I'm very happy with my family. I'm very lucky. And, you know, my occasional visits with my extended family, I feel similarly. Not everybody has had that experience, and that's why I wanted to talk with you all about one of the least discussed but most important forms of privilege. And that privilege is having a good family. Or I guess to be more specific, having a supportive family. A lot of people don't talk about this because it's so ephemeral, you know, it's really difficult to like income, that's really, really easy to quantify. Like if your family, I guess, is making $500,000 a year, of course you're, you know, in a better position than people making, you know, $30,000 a year. Obviously, you know, you can do that out in math. And likewise with like your zip code, you know, that's a big factor too. But at the end of the day, what humans are really pursuing, I mean, generally speaking, I think, is happiness. And money, it's great for providing some of the essentials. You know, nobody wants to be wondering if they'll be able to afford their next meal. But I think that a fundamental baseline level of emotional and personal stability is kind of the baseline for well-being. And a good family is like one of the strongest determinants of whether you're going to be able to get that, you know? But when I say family, I don't mean blood family. I mean the family you make for yourself. See, this is one of the things that really irritates me about, I guess I could call it white America, because this is a very Caucasoid issue, at least here in this country. It's the alienation from your community. See, suburban America is all about that one mom, one dad, 2.5 kids thing. And there's nothing wrong with having a mom and a dad and 1.5 siblings, like at all. There's, you know, I mean, that would be me. I have one sibling, we round down, but I have a mom and a dad. I didn't live in a suburb, but, you know, whatever. The point is, it's not inherently bad, but hey, shoe head. But what if your family's kind of crap? You know? Like, what if you're just born into kind of a crap family? There's this really irritating tendency for a lot of people to be reflexively defensive of family. I don't believe in that shit, personally. I think if you're a parent and you have a kid and you take it upon yourself, you commit yourself to taking care of that kid, you're on the hook, motherfucker. You don't get to treat that kid like shit just because you're supporting them. That's the obligation, you know? There are a lot of parents who pull this guilt trip, like, I paid for your college. Fuck you. It's on you. You did this. Nobody asked to be born. You did this. You put me here. Fuck you. You know? It's like with pets, you know? Like you get mad like at a pet for wanting food. Like, give you your food. You got the pet. It's you. This is the obligation that you accepted. You don't get the guilt, the object of that obligation. You don't get to do that. I'm sorry. But a lot of people do this. And I think a lot of parents do it jokingly. I know, like, my mom's been like, yeah, I give your food when I was being a brat, like, as a kid or whatever, but not seriously. Like, I think my parents always understood fundamentally that I didn't owe them anything, that, you know, the only thing I owed them, I think, was reciprocal affection for their kindness to me, which I did, and I do, and I'm happy to give it. But I don't think you owe your parents anything beyond that. And that sense of entitlement is one of the big issues here, because I think a lot of parents don't really like being parents. They were just told that was a part of how adults are supposed to sort of integrate into higher society. Like, that's just one of the essential components of growing older and so on. And such people who aren't really ready or capable of having kids or doing a good job with those kids feel compelled to do so. And there are a lot of social forces, especially with women, you know, when are you giving me grandchildren, so on and so forth. But not everyone's good at being a parent. Some people say being a parent's like this natural skill that like everyone's got. That's not true at all. That's bullshit, okay? Some people fucking suck at being parents, okay? Don't lie to people. Don't pretend everyone. Come on. I know, I see you people in chat. I know a lot of you are ADHD riddled, neurotic motherfuckers. You think all of you are going to be good parents? No, and that's fine. But here's the thing. Being good at being a parent today is not the same thing as being good at being a parent 500 years ago. Because ye back in the day, took a village to raise a kid. You know, I talk about this a lot on my stream, but it's true. No, there were back in feudal, you know, Europe or whatever, people weren't raising kids with two parents in a fucking suburb, you know? Kids were feral little animals. They would run around the community, and they would be collectively raised by all the people there, you know? Or anyone who wanted to participate. Not literally everyone, but the people who wanted to participate. And in those instances, you're as much of a parent as you want to be. You don't have to biologically pass down your genes to be a parent to some kids, you know? You could just be like the town baker, and the kids run by and help you knead dough a couple of hours every day. And you talk with them, and that's that. And they run off, and, you know, you have some more bread, and they got some exercise or whatever, and great. I don't know. I've never lived in a medieval village. I'm sorry. My understanding of it is largely limited to what I learned in school. But that is essentially how it worked. And this is one of the big reasons, by the way, why the nobility back in those days were of the opinion that the common folk were incapable of managing the realm themselves, because communal living produces communal mindsets. Nobility and their children were raised privately, not communally. They were raised by advisors and scholars who kept them in their castle or, you know, a palace or, you know, whatever. And they were raised in a very specific, very dedicated way, not communally. And there's a very big difference between the types of people which are produced by communal living and the types of people which are produced by private living. And I think that distinction has been muddled today to the point where we are getting, in some cases, the negatives of both. We're not getting the dedicated resources, the dedicated attention, the specificity of private living for most Americans, because most people don't have the money to afford that. But we're also not getting the social normality, the integration, the communal mindset that I think was good about the way we used to raise children. We're kind of getting the worst of both worlds. We're getting poor, disheveled, dispossessed private living for a bunch of tiny little castles in the suburbs. And that's a bad, bad type of society to have a Thanksgiving in, you know? I think a lot of people are raised in these families and they blame themselves for being antisocial. I can't blame you for being antisocial. You know, there's a reason why people have less friends today than they used to. And it's not just the fact that we're all working harder and COVID-19 and all that stuff. It's also because there's a material analysis. There are social forces that make it harder and harder for us to make friends. And that's a problem. I mean, fundamentally, biologically, social, you know, integration is as necessary to us physiologically as food and water. We're social animals. You wouldn't own one guinea pig or one chinchilla, would you? I mean, they need it, and they're simpler animals than us. Look, if you can't raise if it's illegal, isn't it illegal in Canada to have just one guinea pig or something? There's some fucking country where you have to have two guinea pigs. Switzerland? Because guinea pigs on their own, it's Switzerland, okay. Guinea pigs on their own are really, really lonely, so you need two. They get depressed if they're just on their own. That's a guinea pig. They're fucking idiots. Have you ever owned a guinea pig? They're morons. They're so stupid. They're so dumb. They're just fat little meat pellets, okay? They're so fucking stupid. You can just pick them up and just... Yeah, they eat their own shit. They're just little fucking pigs. They're pigs in every way except they're hairy and they have no brain. Regular pigs are smart. And we're much smarter than they are. So we also need social integration, okay? That's important to us. And Thanksgiving should be about that. And for a lot of people, it is. For me, it is. When I have Thanksgiving, not this year, of course, because of COVID, but normally when I have Thanksgiving, I get to spend time with my folks and I have a great time. I mean, back when I lived with my folks, I'd spend every day with them because I live with them. So it wasn't like especially specifically eventful, but it was still good. But for a lot of you guys, Thanksgiving is a miserable dredge of a holiday where you're forced to interact with a bunch of people you don't particularly like or care about or feel supported by. And I feel bad for you guys. I really do. I can't mask my pity, you know? I genuinely feel bad for you guys. Even back when I had to visit my extended family, back when I was like young enough that I was kind of a little shit and I didn't really like talking with people who weren't cool like me. Like I didn't know how to interact outside of my friend circle. Even back then it was still fun. Like, you know, my extended family, you know, was lively and virile and eventful and boisterous, you know, so the dinner table would be loud, and I like loud, you know, I like engaging in the brawl, so it was always fun. But again, not everybody gets that. And that's why I want to talk about family, not blood families, but real families, the families you make for yourself. One of the reasons communal living was so goddamn important is because it is a virtual statistical guarantee that a lot of people are just going to have crap parents. Either the parents themselves are bad people, which is a very essentialist perspective, but for the purposes of delivering this information simply, I'm sure you understand what I mean. Yeah, Hyena, for sure. Or they're just incapable of raising children effectively, or maybe you and your parents are just so different that you can't really get along. I think families should be friends. I think this whole like the father is the patriarch and the mother is the matriarch and the children are the little objects, you know, I think that's bullshit. I think that produces resentment and hatred and fucked up people, okay? I think you should be friends with your parents. Why not? It's not like it's hard to be friends with your parents. I mean, they're different. They're from 1 or 2 generations ago, you know? I guess 1 generation ago by definition, actually. They're from a generation ago, but you can get along with it. My dad likes movies. I don't really like movies. My dad does visual effects on movies, and I like visual effects in games, so I can talk about stuff like that with him, you know? My dad's a comic book nerd. I'm a comic book nerd, except I like manga more than I do American comic books, but I've still read most American graphic novels that you'll see on the shelves of comic book stores, so I can talk with him about that, and I do have opinions on how Batman is treated in modern media. I do have opinions on that, you know? And while they may be too, you know, nerdy and shameful to share with you guys, I'll talk about them with my dad. My mom likes music. My mom actually has watched some anime with me. My mom, I got her to watch Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. How about that, huh? She said she loved it. Even got her to try some episodes of One Punch Man, you know, which is pretty great, you know? Got to get along with your parents. I love getting along with my parents. Can't really get them to play video games. Can't really, I can't really get them to... I don't know if their neurons are fried too much to get it, but one of these days I'll get my mom to play Dark Souls. I'll try to record it. We'll get it up on the channel, okay? But they won't take the gamer pill. We'll get around to it. It's not hard to be friends with your parents conceptually, you know, if they're good parents. If they're bad parents, I'm not going to force you to do that. But the families you make are more important. There's an old saying, right? Blood's thicker than water. And that's true. Blood is more viscous than water by several thousand times. But the actual saying, as somebody in chat said earlier, is the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. Get it? See, back in the communal living days, even if your parents were kind of crap, there was always the people around you, you know, the other couple hundred people in the village, and eventually you get to make your family, you know? And of course, it's never easy. It's never uncomplicated. There's always there's always the inherent obligations you seem to have to your biological family, unless you completely remove yourself from them and their lives, but it's still possible. And that's the world that I want to live in, okay? A world where people have more of an opportunity to choose their family. I think a lot of you would like to live in that world too. A lot of you are LGBTQA++. And for that reason, a lot of you probably have family members who are negatively inclined towards your identities. My parents never gave a shit about what I am or what I did, but again, I'm very lucky. I forgot intersex. I forgot the I. My bad. Did I forget the I? Forgot the I. Canceled again. But a lot of people don't have that. you know? And I think for a lot of people, Thanksgiving is this fundamentally negative holiday. It's this negative experience because they can't imagine a world in which this holiday is anything other than a grim obligation to people you don't want to spend time with. And you're never going to live a life completely free of people you don't like. In fact, I would say interacting with people who you don't like and who don't like you is actually an essential social skill. A lot of people, like, they only want to surround themselves with the people you like. That's not good. It's actually important to be able to interact with people you dislike. That's actually a very important social skill, okay? There are a lot of people, I say this all the time. There are people in high school who are very socially competent, and they only surround themselves with people they like because they're very, they're very able to pull in those people they like, and then they get a job and they work with somebody they dislike, and it's devastating to them. It's like heart-wrenching to them. They can't cope with being around a person they don't like. And by the way, that's another problem with this highly atomized living situation a lot of people are in. Even when you have a good family, like me, communal living will also expose you to cunts. They'll expose you to just shit people, and you can learn to deal with that in a way that's healthier than, like, internally freaking out. Some people can't stand being disliked. For a while, I couldn't stand being disliked. That was something that I had to work over. And now, as you can tell by my channel and the way I engage with other people, I'm actually very okay with being disliked. It's something I've had to get used to it. Yeah, the internet has helped me with that somewhat. How did you do that? Listen, got a lot of arguments online. The point that I'm laboriously getting to here is happy Thanksgiving. The people with good and bad families, to the people who have surrounded themselves with people they do and do not like spending time with, whatever the case may be, I genuinely hope that in the future we adopt social, cultural, and economic systems which make it easier for us to surround ourselves with the people we like, okay? Don't feel this weird, inherent obligation to your familial, to your familial kind, because, frankly, none of you asked to be born, and it's some goddamn bullshit for your parents to treat you as though you signed a contract by falling out of their bodies, That's not correct. You didn't sign shit, okay? In the U.S. of A., the contractual, you can't sign a contract with a fetus. You actually can't do it. You can look into the law. There's actually a law. It's in the Constitution. That's I believe that's the 7th item on the Bill of Rights, right there. You can't sign contract with a fetus, okay? But be good to your parents if you can, if they deserve it, And happy Thanksgiving. Yeah, that's the 6.5th Amendment. Thank you. Wasn't there some Indian man who sued his parents for giving birth to him without his consent? Okay. I'm not going into the anti-natalist arguments just yet. All right, people. I don't know how long I'm going to be able to live with this cough. So I'm just going to roll through right to the next segment. A reminder, by the way, that if you donated to me during any of the past couple of streams about a week ago, and I didn't respond to your dono, I did respond to it. There's an unlisted stream that I did just yesterday that you can find in the playlist. It's entitled Going Over Missed Donos or something like that, and I go over all of them. And I try not to cough during the whole thing. I try my best, unlisted dono stream. Bad Empanada versus Jameson's Travels. Did you see it? I have no idea what you're talking about. Are you gonna go in Tim Pool anytime soon? When COVID's done, dude. After Thanksgiving, we're gonna fucking explode. Oh god. After Thanksgiving, we're so boned. Holy shit. Hmm? Yoicks. Our TV is broken.
The audio isn't working. I don't know if the cat's chewed through a cord.
Is this gonna be another thing where I press one button on the remote and it instantly fixes itself?
I tried a lot though.
Okay, I'll give it a look when I'm down there.
I'm just getting my headphones.
Gotcha. Yeah, Kanye broke it. What a piece of shit.
The cats have been messing with it, so.
Yeah, of course, they're cats. That's the real Thanksgiving fucking compatriot shit you need, okay? It's some good cats. That's what you all need. Artemy and Pigeon are such good babies. They sleep with us every night. Pigeon always sleeps at our feet. So cute. Cute little babies. All right, what was I doing? No. We gotta focus. No Pigeon. Yeah? She's still not in frame.
I know.
Just knocking the camera around. Yeah, we're really trying? There we go. Very good. Nicely done. All right, people. Shape up. Now, some of you may have heard of a channel called Destiny. It's run by a guy called Stephen Bunnell, and I think it's, as I understand it, it's a Pokemon drama channel. But it seems like this guy, Destiny, is also dipping his toes into politics, and I wanted to talk about that if I could. Oh, there we go.
Are you a Dan?
That's a dude. There we go. In all seriousness, Destiny is going over to Georgia several times over the coming weeks to canvass for the 2 senatorial elections that are going to be taking place. And as much as I'd like to make jokes about this, this is actually based as shit. So I thought that it important to cover this positively. No shit. He actually got like 50 to 100 people to show up. Is he down? That's him. This individual right here, I think, is him. But anyway, yeah, there we go. Whew, that's a lot of people to get together. See, one of the things that I think people on the left, 130 people? Somebody in chat saying 130 people. That is insane. One of the things the left is really bad at doing is political organizing online. Because online leftists are all faffy fucking theater drama students who want to sit in their bedrooms and look pretty with bisexual lighting, okay? Whereas every single conservative YouTuber fantasizes about being a petty tyrant and stomping on the stomachs of pregnant women, okay? Every single conservative YouTuber, all right? It doesn't matter if they have 10,000 subscribers or 10 million. Every single one of them wants to line blacks up against the wall and shoot them down, like that bit in This Is America, okay? Every single one of them. So they're much, much more ambitious than a lot of left-leaning people are. They are. And I'm being a little facetious here, but in all seriousness, like, you do notice this, right? A lot of these conservative YouTubers are like hyper-aggressive, engaged, ambitious people who are constantly looking for clout-chasing opportunities or self-advertisement or anything they can do to get funding or to get exposure. And then we have like ContraPoints and philosophy tube and stuff, and they're like theater students, like they're philosophy grads. Like, again, no hate, they do good work, but like ContraPoints isn't going to be out there at a fucking rally screaming into a megaphone about the storming the banks, you know? Like, she's not her vibes, I don't think. I don't think that's what she's about. I think she'd rather make a video on that 2 months later. You know, a self-deprecating video with nice lighting. But hey, look at that. Destiny actually putting where his money where his mouth is, actually getting a lot of people to show up. Yes, Michael Brooks would have done that shit. Yes, RGR does do actual policy work. Let's fucking focus. The gist of it is that Destiny, as I understand it, is going to be flying over to Georgia, all the way from California, for 3 weekends consecutively, in order to mobilize his followers to go and canvass. They're going to be doing door-to-door work. They're going to be doing everything they can, I think working with local NGOs, because this is a significant number of people. As somebody who's done canvassing before, and I have, when you get 10 people together, that's like a good chunk of people. 100 people? That's a lot of fucking people. Jesus Christ. Yeah, apparently at 5550 we get a little Easter egg.
Like, he's actually said amazing like 10 times for like even say yes, he's exactly the exact same way. Yeah, 100%.
There he is.
When's your next tag team with Vaush? Vaush actually emailed me and asked if it was okay for him. Oh, actually, I'm curious. Are any of you guys here from Vaush's community, like more than mine? You can let me know. We're not going to kill anybody today. Today. There might be a program. No. So Vaush actually emailed me and he asked if it would be okay to like send some of his fans this way. So we're okay. I don't know if we'll ever like do it to a Is anyone do it? Is anyone here more of a David Cochran fan? Because one of his moderators.
There we go. I don't know how well you can make out that audio, but I did email him, and I asked if it would be okay for me to throw some of my fans his way. And guess what I'm doing right now? Listen, I've got a cough. I've got people with pre-existing conditions who I live with. I'm terrified of COVID. If you live in Georgia, or if you live adjacent to Georgia, or you're just a fearless cunt, I strongly encourage you to go out there and participate in the organization that Destiny is currently doing. I can't currently do that. I'm sitting right here, but he's over there. And rather than needlessly dick measure and compete with him and form 2 competing canvassing groups, I think you should go over there. As I understand it, Destiny's organization is this canvassing is actually being organized by a guy called Doug from CA. I think he's a regular on Destiny streams. I don't really know the specifics, but he has experience in canvassing an organization, and it seems like he's fairly on the ball. Destiny is taking this seriously, by the way. I have checked out a stream a couple of times. People have linked me segments, and he's actually going over videos on YouTube on canvassing. Like recommendations for canvassing. Like, here's how you canvass, here's a way to approach X, here's a way to approach Y. This is a degree of commitment that a LARPer would not be engaging in. If Destiny was just here to get quick clout and quick attention, he would not be putting that work in. And I think that's very admirable. What is canvassing? That's a great question. Canvassing is when you go out there and you talk to folks. Yeah. Canvassing can be going door to door. Canvassing can be standing on a street corner and talking to people to go by. Most of this is going to be door to door. Door to door canvassing is what gets people like AOC and Ilhan Omar elected. This on the ground door to door engagement was one of the ways that, oh God, what was the name of the woman in Georgia? Holy shit, she's like a literal fucking hero. My name's blanking right now. The woman who got like 800,000 people signed up to vote. What's the name? Stacey Abrams. Yeah. Door-to-door canvassing is the bedrock of populist mobilization. And Destiny and Doug from CA are both doing real work right now, and I cannot overstate how essential it is that we win these Senate elections. Both of them are capable of being won. Both of them are within our grasp, albeit marginally. They're like coin tosses, both. So we have to work harder than them. And Destiny is not the only person going out to Georgia. People like Nick Fuentes, people like Alex Jones, they're also over there. We have to compete with this work. We have to do better than them. Thankfully, we will do better than them, because as maladjusted as you motherfuckers are, Nazis can't do canvassing, as it so happens. Imagine your average poll user going door to door. You fucking kidding me? These people can't talk. These people can't talk with other people. Yeah, they don't have those social skills, so that's our advantage. Some of you are at least marginally socially competent. I tease. Nobody's good at canvassing right off the bat. We have to get out there, and we have to show our support. So listen, if you are in Georgia, you're in the Georgia area, here's what I suggest to you. Get a COVID test, please. And depending on the results of that test, I strongly encourage you to follow up with Destiny. I would give you specific instructions, but the information, the meeting times, all of those are going to change. They're going to be dependent on information coming out of his community. Destiny's subreddit is probably a pretty good place for you to get this information. Like I said, this is a Pokimane drama subreddit at the moment, but past that, I strongly encourage you to keep up with this information because it is very possible, it is excessively possible that you might end up being part of a pivotal move to secure the Senate of the United States of America. It is difficult to overstate how important these senatorial elections are. Okay? So if you're capable of doing that, go over there. All right? There's not any weird Destiny Vaush feud or any of that stupid bullshit. Okay? We're united in our interest in a blue Senate. So do it if you can, and if you are capable of doing so. A couple of quick notes on canvassing. A lot of you are maybe thinking that would be a really cool social experience. I could meet new people and totally fucking make some new friends and stuff. But canvassing sounds terrifying. Well, canvassing isn't as scary as you probably think it is. Done canvassing. I've done multiple types of canvassing. I've done door-to-door canvassing. I've done stand on a corner canvas and talk to people as they... Yeah. Wait, I don't get it. Is Destiny running for office? You can canvass for people who aren't you. They're canvassing for... You don't have to canvass for you. You can also canvass for other people. Like Warnock and Ossoff. You can canvass for those guys. Destiny is not running for the Senate. To my knowledge. Anyway, canvassing can be a lot of fun, okay? And by the way, it'll make you a better political agent, a better political worker. Because what a lot of people don't realize is that the engagement we do here represents the sliver of political actors who are online savvy. Most people aren't. And a lot of people who disagree with you do so for incredibly banal and silly and shallow reasons, okay? Most people who are like, let me give you an example, anti-gay marriage, a lot of them aren't like frothing bigots. A lot of them just have these kind of passive ideas that they've accepted, and they're like, I don't know, it's just like weird, and like, I don't know if they could like raise a kid, because don't you like need a mom, and like isn't like marriage traditional thing? But they don't like have incredibly strong attachments to these values. A lot of these are just them passively accepting some of the social norms that they've adopted from the people around them, you know? A lot of these values, a lot of these beliefs can be pushed back on, especially when it comes to stuff like senatorial races. Ossoff and Warnock would absolutely be better for their constituencies and for this country than the conservative counterparts they're running against. You can make those cases. And the feeling that you can get when you are talking with somebody who disagrees with you, but then 2 minutes later comes around to agreeing with you, it is sublime. It is beyond description. It beats any online debate, ownage, epic, pwned shit imaginable. It is unbelievable. And the feeling that you will get in doing so, the knowledge that you've potentially moved a person over to the left forever, or at least over to the Democrats, that sticks with you. You know, that really does. We should all make it a personal project to move around the people who we have in our surrounding. You all want to be the Age of Empire monk. You all want to turn people over to side blue, okay? You want to move them over to blue, and then you want to move them over to red. You know, you want the further left red. Get involved if you can. And if you don't want to canvass, by the way, there are organizations that you can phone bank with. Phone banking is also a lot of fun. It's canvassing, except you don't have to leave you don't have to go to the house. Also fun. Vaush, I was at the meeting in Georgia. Really? Giro Zappelli or Hero Zappelli, depending on the pronunciation. Did you have a good time? This initial meetup that Destiny did, it was only a test meetup to see how many people would show up. It seems like his expectations were defied, which I think is lovely. And thank you to this person, Polar's World, for filming all of it. I remember, I saw bits of this. He kept joking everyone there was white, which, haha, true. That's Destiny's community, full of white people. Unlike my community, very racially diverse. Go and have a good time if you can, you know? But wait, they voted for Biden? Guess a lot of Destiny fans didn't go out there and vote, probably because they're so young. All right, good. I'm being serious about that, by the way. I'm going to be angry at you motherfuckers if I don't see the fucking Vaush, what would you call it? The Vaush, what's the term? What are we looking for? The Vaush caucus. The Vaucus. The Vaushkus. Oh, wait, we just got a donation for 20 bucks. Tanner Martin with 20 bucks. Stop being so divisive and you could win next time. Stop degrading those who you disagree with and more will follow. Conservatives have fallen complacent but will not make the same mistake in 4 years. Good luck to you, sir. How have conservatives fallen complacent? There are just fewer of you than us. Conservatives have an incredibly consistently high approval rating for Trump, and you guys get out to vote more reliably than left-leaning people do. You're not complacent. You're just fewer. What do you mean stop being so divisive? Do you have any idea how divisive... Trump is like the most divisive president in American history. Holy shit. Trump literally talks about withholding aid from Democrat cities and states. Like, he is 100% behind the idea that he is only the president of Republicans, and Democrats just sort of occupy this space as anti-American shitheads. I mean, you can whine about whatever you want, but you're $20 in mine now, motherfucker. Hey! Vaush, can you please mention the importance of white allyship in this context? White folks generally want to help POC. This is the way to do it. Convince less woke or uneducated white folks that only convince progressive ideas fed to them people look like them. Destiny doing this is a perfect example of what to do. Yeah, Hyena, that's definitely true, but I think a lot of the Georgia canvassing is going to be with black people because I think so. This is a guess of mine, but just based on the work of Stacey Abrams. But I have a feeling that the best shot for the Senate races isn't going to be convincing conservative or ambivalent whites in the suburbs. It's going to be getting ambivalent black people in the cities registered to vote. You know, I have a feeling that's probably going to be a better. Oh no, the point still stands, of course. Oh God. I'm just imagining right now the white like Destiny / Vaush fans showing up to like black people living in fucking Atlanta or something, and they're like, well, Ossoff would be a lot better for black people. They're like, how? They're like, oh God, that'd be a conversation. Yeah, maybe what we should actually do is go out into the suburbs and convince white people not to vote. We need to black pill all the Republicans. We go to everyone with a MAGA sign and we're like, hey, do you hear about Donald Trump allowing the transition team for Biden to start getting info from the government? They're pretty cucked. Guess the deep state got to them. You should show the Republicans a lesson, not even vote for them. Hey, you know, it would really show them a lesson. What if you voted for Warnock? You know, like, oh, 10 wait, Polar. Polar's World, is that you? 10 Polar. You're the filmer? Move. Yeah? Yo, 10 Polar, you in my Discord? Yeah? Can you DM me? talk to you for 2 minutes. I feel so connected. There's a guy called Polar. Hello. Yo.
Vaush?
Yo.
Hey, man.
Yo. Wait, can you hear me?
Oh,
Do I have push to talk on?
no, you're fine. You're
Okay,
fine.
okay, gotcha. Because for Among Us, you have to set push talk. Howdy.
Hey, how you doing, man? Really appreciate you watching the vid on stream. It's really cool to see you like supporting Destiny in this and like getting people out. Like this means a lot, I think, to a lot of people.
Yeah, of course. I mean, this is something we all need to transition into doing anyway. The online stuff is fun, but at the end of the day, it's ultimately fucking worthless unless you actually affect like real world events. So,
Yeah,
this is a pretty important step in doing that. And I think Destiny's willingness to go ahead with this, in spite of, I don't know if he thinks he's immune or if he got some sort of fucking smuggled Cuban vaccine ahead of the rest of us or something, but he does not give a shit. He's flying out like 4 times, you know?
yeah. Like I live in Georgia, right? And I have someone at home that's at high risk. So I think I'm gonna go to the next couple events, see what I can do. But yeah, you're right. Man's really doing everything that he can with coronavirus going on.
Yeah, I will. I especially with my cough, I don't feel comfortable exposing myself to that sort of stuff.
Mhm.
But so a lot of people are concerned fundamentally about like COVID, and I completely understand that. But I think this is probably like the most pivotal set of Senate races maybe in the past 200 years of the United States of America. So, it's really important that we win this. I feel like this is one of those acceptable risk situations, at least if you live in the area or if you don't have people who you live with who are who have pre-existing conditions, you know?
Yeah, I would say that and this is really interesting in Georgia because I've been involved, at least in the political scene here, for I think the past couple of years, especially after Stacey Abrams got a lot of people would say she was stolen the election by Kemp. There's been actually there's been this really large blue I want to say hype in the area. So getting these 2 Senate seats, I think are really important in the sense of we get the Senate, but maybe turning Georgia permanently blue or at least letting it become like a permanent battleground state is something that I would love to see.
How mad would they be? Oh God. If
so mad.
2024 Georgia, Florida, and Texas are all swing states, that's gonna feel real bad for them.
All the memes, man, and to think a black woman did it, that'll be real. They'll get real mad too. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
Oof.
how was the what is it called? The Yakubian energy emanating from the event.
Oh, I made a lot of memes there talking about how white it was, but in reality, it was pretty chill. I didn't expect to see that many black people, to be honest.
I mean, it is Georgia, right? I would hope statistically,
it is Georgia, yeah.
if you're in fucking Georgia and 130 people show up to a meetup and every single one of them is white, that's probably a fucking warning sign right off the bat.
Yeah, that's probably the sign to get out. No, but it was pretty chill. It was cool to see. I think Doug of CA has been doing a lot of work there. So he's been really cool about it. I know he's been helping Destiny a lot when it comes to the actual practicality of canvassing, because I think he worked on some of the Biden stuff in California. So it was actually pretty chill. They taught a mini canvassing class. I didn't get to put that on stream because Doug didn't want to be filmed, and I respected that. But it's actually pretty cool. There was a lot to be learned. A lot of the people there were genuinely interested in doing things. Some, for I'm part of DGG, and some for actually getting involved in canvassing. So it's cool to see all the political hobbyists come out and do what we love to talk about on the internet.
Yeah, I mean, political hobbyism is great and all, but I think you can extend that into the real world. I mean, it's pretty fun just seeing other people from an online community, in person. I've only done a meetup once. It was after the Bernie Sanders rally in Tacoma, and I was literally a fraction of the current size that I am now back then. And even back then, I was recognized a bunch of times at that rally. And it was really, and that's still political hobbyism because it was a rally. It wasn't canvassing or anything like that. But the feeling of meeting with people online or that online in person, I think, is honestly worth, at least I would hope for a lot of people in my community, any of the social anxiety they might incur from actually doing the canvassing,
Yeah, I think I know a lot of people talk about this, but like people will get into like online political communities as a way to like not feel I don't want to say it's lonely, but like make friends and like get into a really cool community. And I think it's cool to see that some content creators are like taking that out into the real world and like doing some really good stuff with it. So I think that's pretty cool. And I hope that's like a model for a lot of like political people on the internet in general, like utilizing some of those online political aspects. I think that's
Yeah,
pretty
I
chill.
think what a lot of left-leaning YouTubers need to realize is we have an insane amount of power. A lot of people don't like they can't fully fathom it because for YouTube all you see is the analytics, you know? But
Hmm.
if you have like on your analytics page, it's like how many unique viewers over the past month, like 1.52 million. Like you have an unbelievable. You have more power than some news stations do with regards to the number of people that you can reach. And you may not have the institutional legitimacy, but that doesn't mean shit when you're doing actual organizing. It doesn't when you're organizing, it doesn't matter if you're a DGG or a VGG or a fucking CNN correspondent. When you're doing organizing, you're just a body. And in that sense,
True.
that's where populism reigns. And that's the advantage that we have. So I think that a lot of, I think well, there's so much work we could do. I feel like I got it on the back foot with this election, but at least for
Mhm.
2022, I'm hoping we can get like really, really involved, generally speaking, with political organizing.
Oh yeah, me too as well. I think like these midterm elections are going to be like really important. I've spent at least a lot of time looking at like or talking about with a lot of people what it's supposed to look like, and I think if we can do this form of like converting online communities into like real political forces, I think we could have like a massively measurable impact. And I think you talked about it with like analytics and like having like you see like the millions of views. And I think an unlike thought aspect of that is like just think about the money that people will get from like donos or something. I'm not saying that everyone should like all these like content creators should just donate all of the money that they have to like these political like organizations, but like I was thinking if I ever get larger or something, or if another content creator, but like maybe like doing a donation stream and just working on fundraising, right?
Yeah, I want to
And
make a
that's something.
pack for
Yeah.
2022. That's my goal.
Oh
If you
yeah.
watch me, you've probably heard that, but that's the dream, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, like
I think that's super based. Yeah.
even a quarter million can influence some house seats, like pretty significantly.
Yeah.
There are purple districts in certain parts of the country where the
Hmm.
Republican and Democrat candidates are both working with dollar amounts in the tens of thousands. They don't even breach six digits, you know? Um,
Hmm.
enough money spent in one or two districts, you know. If you can just get one fucking progressive congressperson in, you feel I if I did that, I would feel like I own that person. Even though I'll never speak a word to them. I'll never talk to them directly, you know, or whatever. But like I'll feel that way, you know. Anytime they vote that way, I'll be like, hey, yeah, it's my vote. You know?
That's your hey, that's your candidate.
Yeah, it's my
No,
guy up there. You know, and it's
yeah.
the jokes write themselves. Anyway, um, thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate you going out there
Mhm.
and filming. Hopefully, you do it again in the future. Since Destiny didn't bring his 400-pound streamer backpack, I guess. Um, and please, next
Mhm.
time you go out there, after you're done, DM me again on Discord. I'd like to talk to you again.
Hey, that'd be really cool. Vaush, I think I've been watching you since. Oh, I've been watching you since what was it like when you had the really bad setup, like the one that was like tilted at your face. I've been like a long fan, been a big fan of your
Back in my old
community.
apartment, the one where it
Yeah,
was like
yeah.
90 degrees to the
Oh,
side.
I remember the Irish laddie days, and you've come far. So it's cool to see
Thanks.
that you're interested in this kind of stuff as well. I
Yeah, of
appreciate it.
course.
It's
I was
cool to see
interested
people
in it
that like
before
admire.
Destiny was. Yeah, yeah, by the way, this is twitch.tv/Polars World, Polars World. And you should go and look there, folks.
Yeah, I'll be streaming in 30 minutes. Maybe doing some React Andy content. Not my best, but it's what
All
the
right, well,
people
don't,
want.
you can't go over there till my stream's done. Okay. All right. Be well,
Okay.
man.
See ya. Bye.
Bye. Cool dude. Nicely done, people. Go team. Gamer. Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, good person? Yeah. It would be extremely regrettable if it would be extremely regrettable if a divide between my community and Destiny's prevented us from being politically efficacious in this respect. Is your relationship with Destiny improving anytime soon? This has literally nothing to do with my relationship with Destiny. Even if I despise Destiny, and I'm not capable of feeling those emotions for drama as petty as the one between him and I would still do exactly what I'm doing right now. My obligation to political efficacy is much greater than whatever petty drama I find myself getting into online. Or at least I would hope. I mean, you know, I would like to believe nobody's perfect. God. People? You don't like hate him or anything, right? I just said I don't hate him. No. God. Talk about destroy quaked. I'll just wait for the courts to dismiss it. The hearing in PA with Rudy Giuliani. Did you see it? Yeah, I saw it. Excuse me. What's the drama between you and Destiny? Destiny would always boast to me in DMs that he was actually taller than me, but when we met up in LA right before COVID started, we measured, and I was actually taller than him, and he got really, really, really mad. So he shoved me, but in shoving me, I like stepped back, and he tripped, and he fell down a flight of stairs, and I went down to get him, but he had already ran off. By the next time I saw him, he was shit-talking me on stream. You know? Please tell them you're lying. Oh, wait, no, that's not true. Wait, a lot of you are gonna think that's true. Wait, no, that's okay. It's not true. Disclaimer. No, that happened. I saw it. Yeah, the real drama. The real drama was I was down in LA and I was shopping and I actually saw and I recognized Destiny. And I was like, oh, hey, man. And he was like, dude, move. And he went over and he was holding like all these rolls of toilet paper. And he went over to the counter and no, stop. Okay. Stop. Well, I don't even know the full copy pasta. I'd fucking butcher it. Chill. Okay. Listen up, people. I know that it's really important when you get big to not forget the little guys, okay? And we're a big YouTuber now. I'm a big YouTuber. I don't know about you people, okay? But some of you may remember a little podcast called the Joe Rogan Experience. It's like this small, sort of like indie thing. Anyway, this guy, Joe, he got on the CEO of Whole Foods, and apparently they had a conversation about capitalism and socialism. I haven't watched a single goddamn second of this. I vaguely remember the CEO of Whole Foods being a cunt. I don't remember why I think that. It's something to do with wages. I don't know. I just vaguely remember.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Back to the subject of capitalism and Marxism and socialism.
Hey,
this right now we're in a wave of this, right? It's become more popular now. I would say over the last, particularly during the Trump administrations, the concept of socialism at least has become more publicly discussed than any time that I can remember in my life. Why do you think that is?
I think it's because the generation that's coming up is, I mean...
Oh, by the way, I just want to say this. Regardless of how this conversation is about to go down, I think we should reflect in the fact that by default, any CEO is going to be a pretty harsh advocate of anti-socialism. There aren't really like socialist CEOs, you know? We're coming into this with a pretty strong bias, you know?
You have to understand the academic community is I always say the intellectuals have always been the enemy of business.
Wow.
Enemy of, certainly the enemy of capitalism. And
wow, what is that? Well, yeah. True. Yeah, okay. Yeah, sure. The most educated and fastidious people in our society are opposed to the way business operates in capitalism. Okay, yeah, sure.
But why is that?
I think because in a market society, which has been rare in history. We haven't mostly had market societies, but they're not very important.
That's not really true at all. Market-driven, first of all, over the past 300 years, laissez-faire capitalism has been the predominant economic system of the planet. And even before that, feudalism was mostly mercantile capitalism, which was also a market-driven system. What I think he means is that unregulated capitalism is a relatively new phenomena, which I guess even that isn't really whatever. Maybe he means like on a human civilization scale, but okay, sure, 6,000 years ago, we didn't have mercantilism, I guess.
Important in a market society.
The intellectuals aren't very important?
Generally not as important, no.
But aren't they the ones that inspire the minds of the people that create and maybe innovate in the industry?
They don't have the same social status that the entrepreneurs have. An Elon Musk or Steve Jobs or Jeff Bezos.
So you think it's an ego issue?
He's not wrong. It's just he's on the wrong side of it. You know what I mean? He's like, yeah, dude, intellectuals don't like the way businesses operate. In our society, these gigantic fucking oligarchs have way more social power than academics. I appreciate him being honest about the fact that he's on the bad team. You know what I mean? I appreciate that. Like, he could lie. He could be like a PragerU dude and say that, like, Marxist academics have taken over the world and they control all thought and all speech. Like, that's the traditional conservative line, the super, like, self-victimizing line. But he's being open about it. He's just like, yeah, no, we have all the power, like basically all of it, you know?
The social status issue?
Think about it this way. If you're going to school, okay, and the people that end up teaching in the universities were always the smartest kids in the school generally, and they did well in school. I mean, smart in terms of doing well in school. And they go on to college, and then they go and get a PhD, and then that's all they've known is school. That's been their universe, right? And they excelled at it. And they were smarter than the other kids in school. And now these other kids, they go to college and they get a degree in business and they're in a fraternity and they make a lot of friends and relationships and they make more money than the intellectuals do. And that seems like that's completely unfair. It's an unjust world that this less smart people are making more money than the smart people do, and they have more status in the society. And I think that's underlying it is a resentment or an envy.
I see. The argument he's making is that intellectuals hate business because they're not as rich as businessmen. That's incredible. He makes like 50 consecutive correct points, and then his conclusion is the opposite of correct. That's amazing. He's like, yeah, you know, like the really intelligent people who end up like teaching others, like they don't have as much money because they don't get involved in these businesses, and that seems unfair. So they're jealous, and that's why they don't like businesses, you know? It's not like there's a massive wealth of academic research on like the harm our economic system is doing to the planet or to the people in our planet, or that academia has generally informed economic development for millennia. Well, I guess millennia is overstating it a bit. Academia, as we understand, it's only about 1,000 years old. For centuries then. But no, they're just envious. Wait, is he against meritocracy? Oh, well, I think he's saying that being a smart boy in school isn't necessarily indicative of merit. And to an extent, there's some truth in that. It is possible to be like super duper insularly academically minded and you don't know much about real world application. There are people like that, and I've met people like that. But you can't just dismiss all of academia by saying they're jealous. That's just not true. And if that was the case, by the way, business school professors also make less money than businessmen, but they still rep business interests. So there's clearly an element here beyond just envy, which is determining the relationship between academia and business.
Of a society that doesn't judge them to be as important as they judge themselves.
That's interesting, but I think it's a very flawed perspective.
Hey,
and
Joe!
First of all, the term smart is a weird term.
I said smart in terms of school. I didn't say in terms of street smarts or ability to do things, to connect with people. There's emotional intelligence. I'm merely saying they're good at taking tests, writing papers, abstracting thoughts, essentially.
abstracting thoughts is how we determine whether or not something is ethical or unethical. If academic types are good at abstracting thoughts, wouldn't that be an indication that they would be a good determinant of whether or not business is good or bad? To be very reductive.
Actually,
Yeah, but this is what I'm saying. That just the term smart, it's almost like the problem is it's like a blanket term, right? It's like drugs. You know, like it applies to a bunch of different things that don't necessarily seem to be related. But the people that are interested in that pursue that. The fact that they can't understand that there's an like Elon Musk is a great example. If you don't think Elon Musk is intelligent, you're either you're
not very intelligent yourself.
Yeah.
You don't think Elon Musk is intelligent.
You're delusional.
I think that Elon Musk is intelligent in an extremely narrow way, and in other ways is aggressively stupid. I think that speaks to the the sort of compartmentalization of intelligence. Yeah, he's a COVID denier. He's incredibly egotistical. He makes horrible fucking business decisions. Anybody who has designed or conceptualized the Hyperloop, anyone who made that fucking car look the way it looks, this is not a holistically intelligent individual. I'm sure there are some very specific ways in which he's a smart guy.
Or you're a liar, or you're in denial.
Right.
It's one of those things. Is something wrong with the way you think? He's clearly intelligent, but there's people that call him a fool, and that like the guy's running like 4 different businesses simultaneously. They're all successful, and he's innovating.
Well, that's not Joe. Donald Trump ran a bunch of businesses. Donald Trump ran more than 4, that's for fucking sure. Running businesses doesn't mean you're smart. A good businessman will usually delegate the responsibilities of running those businesses to other people. He owns a bunch of businesses, and he's been appointed as the CEO by shareholders, I think in large part because he's a good front man for a lot of these business interests. But that's not singly indicative. Okay, look, we're getting off track here. Okay, sure, whatever. Based, epic, big chunkus, Keanu Reeves, Rick and Morty, Joe Rogan, Elon Musk. Okay.
When it comes to space travel, in a way that you would assume that someone would have to dedicate most of their life just singularly to that task, to be able to figure out past NASA how to shoot a rocket up into space and have it land,
right, and
then reuse it.
Okay, but Elon Musk isn't the rocket engineer. Okay, he's not the person do. Oh God, this is what gets me about capitalism, dude. Elon Musk isn't designing the rockets. He's not the engineer. He hires the engineers. The geniuses are the people he hires. The nameless fucking heroes who design and innovate and get nothing for it because they don't own the business. Okay.
No one's been able to do that besides him, or up until he did it. And I think Jeff Bezos' company is doing the same thing too now.
Blue Origin.
Yeah.
They're obviously 2 of the great entrepreneurs of
You know what I love about Jeff Bezos? The way he personally flies all my packages right over to me.
This particular era.
But I don't think Jeff Bezos is actually engineering these things.
But if you think about it, the intellectuals have always disliked business. They've always discriminated against the merchant classes.
Discriminated against the merchant class. Okay, first of all, holy fucking big ego energy calling yourself. Nobody uses the term merchant class anymore, okay? Fucking Poindexter. This is not a historically applicable term to your position. Second of all, biased? Discriminated?
The Jews in the West,
Whoa!
Chinese in the East liked business. They've always discriminated against the merchant classes, the Jews in the West, Chinese in the East. There's really been no historical period.
So, hold on. Most of the anti-Semitism in the West was driven by Christian extremism. Universities became bastions of secular thought after the Enlightenment. Universities produced comparatively tolerant people with regards to anti-Semitism. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you and say that every fucking academic from 1562 from Oxford was like super non-anti-Semitic. So that's not true. I also like him inherently associating the Jews with the merchant class, and the implication that modern academics dislike business because they're Jewish. That is an insane reach, dude. This is like fractally wrong. There are like 4 or 5 fucking implications being made here.
Where intellectuals praised business, maybe a little bit around the time of Adam Smith, up until probably Ricardo and Malthus wrote in the early 19th century. For the most part, business people have been seen, they're disruptive, they change things, they upset the status quo, they innovate. Well, a lot.
Oh, man. Oh, God. Okay. Oh, God, there's so much wrong here. So, first of all, the time period during which he was saying academia was biased against the merchant class was back during the days of mercantile capitalism, where most of the business and merchant engagement were gigantic corporations working in tandem with monarchs to engage in colonialism. When you say merchant class, are you referring to like Jewish merchants, travelers, and bankers, which is kind of what you're implying? Or are you referring to the real economic forces of the day, the gigantic mercantile company, the East India Trading Company or whatever? What are you referring? Yeah, West Indian Shipping. What are you referring to here exactly? Yeah, Dutch shipping wasn't disruptive. It was just an arm of colonialism. And then you talk about post Adam Smith, and now you have laissez-faire capitalism. And there are certainly instances where businesses are disruptive. Being disruptive is not necessarily a good thing. You know? Like, that's not inherently a good thing. Most of the innovations in this country's history, were developed through public funding and then just made marketable by businesses. The idea that the reason academics hate business is because they hate how successful they are, this is the attitude of a loser. And by the way, a person with a great victim complex. To be the CEO of Whole Foods and to whine that academia has always been biased, they've always discriminated against us. Mate, they've made the arguments.
A lot of people don't like innovations. It's threatening. It changes.
Yes, academics don't like innovation. You do realize that all of the innovators in business are people who graduated from academic fields, right? The biologists, the engineers, the physicians, the mathematicians, all of the people who front real technological innovation are academics. They're just academics whose labor is bought by capitalists. Oh, God, we have to let this guy talk for a bit. We can't respond to every dumb thing he says.
It changes social status. It changes wealth relationships. It's almost like capitalism is like a genie that got out of the bottle, and they're trying very hard to stuff the genie back in the bottle as much as they can.
What? You see, the world sucked, and then capitalism was invented, and all the academics, they hated it because they hate good things, and they hate good things, they hate innovation, and they hate disruption, and now they're trying to put the genie back in the bottle. I'm unchained, man. My bracers are off, and they're trying to shove me back in the lamp, you know? That's what I'm saying.
And I think if you think about it that way, you'll understand we're never going to win the intellectuals over. I mean, I speak in universities all the time, and the students, I'm an entrepreneur, I self-identify that way. Students love when I talk about conscious capitalism. As I say, you can do good and you can do well. There's no contradiction here. You're the good guys here. You're not the bad guys.
Do you debate people about this?
I do. I've debated a number of socialists.
And what is their
What? Wait, is that? Economist Richard Wolff annihilates Whole Foods founder.
Welcome to Politics Done Right.
But you know, we didn't really. They fooled us.
They don't see the profits. The people who
That's not
now
the CEO
see
of
the
Whole
profits
Foods.
are the ones.
Okay, so this is being commented on. I see.
And which is, as it's gotten more economically free, hundreds of millions of people have escaped from poverty.
Okay, yeah. So this guy. Okay, yeah. So if you're making arguments like capitalism has made people wealthier to a guy on Richard Wolff's level, there's no fucking way this guy came across looking decent in this argument. Yeah, I bet this guy's debated socialists. That's the thing, though. With people, it's a sign of narcissism when you believe that people only dislike you because they're envious. People like this guy, it doesn't matter what arguments you make to them. They're never, ever, ever, ever going to think they've lost. So it doesn't really matter. There's no point in debating people like this.
Primary argument is that business is greedy and selfish, and it's about motivations, that business people have the wrong motivations. In a lot of ways, conscious capitalism is an answer to that. It's a complete answer to that because...
Yes, this is why. I remember this. Whole Foods is reportedly using a heat map to track stores at risk of unionization. They're using fucking high-tech algorithms to mathematically track the likelihood of unions forming so they can... They're targeting unions with the precision of a laser grid, targeting fucking cancerous tumors. I remember that shit. I remember that. You can't be a conscious capitalist if you don't even let your workers unionize. That's just a flat line right there. That's like baseline right there. You can't call yourself a conscientious capitalist if your workers aren't organized, okay? It's like zero. You can't. Like, that's baseline right there. That's not good. That's like the neutral level, okay? By conscientious capitalists, they mean they give you 1 extra week off per year, and they throw you fucking birthday parties. They give you an extra 15-minute break and 2 slices of a whole pizza.
Because in the book and in Conscious Leadership as well, we're basically arguing that business isn't primarily about maximizing profits. Business is primarily about creating value for other people.
That is demonstrably untrue. What? Even advocates for capitalism have to recognize this. The goal of any business is to maximize profits for its shareholders. It's legally obligated to. If you're a CEO, you are legally obligated. You can be sued if you don't maximize profits for your shareholders. That's your job. Create value for... Then what about planned obsolescence? What about planned obsolescence? What about advertising? There are elements of businesses that make no sense if you genuinely think their goal is to produce value. Their goal is to maximize profits. Obviously.
And through creating value for other people, you do make...
Oh, by other people, he means his shareholders. Okay, now it makes sense.
Make a profit. But it's the value creation that comes first. The profits come second in exchange, right? And it's...
This is, by the way, this is delusional. The idea that companies put creating value, whatever nebulous shit that means, first and profits second, that is absolutely delusional. Nobody thinks this works that way. I could go into any econ, any business school in the country, and I could show this clip to them, and they would die laughing. The business teacher would die laughing. I could ask hardcore capitalists, and they would laugh at this. This is not capitalism. This is a delusional oligarch who has tricked himself into believing he's part of an ethical system. This is not a true advocate for capitalism. This is an advocate for self-aggrandizement.
It's almost, if you are creating value, then you are profitable. And then you can reinvest those profits, and you have this upwards spiral. So that business has this potential for higher purpose. It's not primarily about greed. Greed is found in human nature, Joe. It's not just found in business people.
Humans literally conquered the planet because we are more socially capable than other animals. One of the greatest things humans can do that other animals cannot is we're capable of complex speech. It allows us to organize, to collectivize in ways other animals cannot. It is only through cooperation that we conquered the planet. And if we ever conquer the solar system, it'll be through cooperation. Not through Elon Musk types, but through the incredible hard work of millions of humans of beings. Collaboration is what makes humanity strong. All humans are greedy to an extent, and to the extent that we're self-interested, but it is in all of our self-interest to build economic systems that make life as good as possible for the greatest number of people.
There are plenty of greedy governmental officials, plenty of greedy politicians, greedy lawyers.
Yeah.
Greed is endemic to the human nature. Business people either have no more or no less than it. It's just part of who we are.
Well, wait, that is true. There's nothing inherently greedy about capitalists. The system is the problem. Okay, I agree with that, even though I know that's not what he means.
Has anyone ever laid it out in a way that's very compelling? Like when you have these debates with socialists and has anyone ever laid it out in a way where they have a point where you see their point?
You always.
I like that. I think Joe Rogan actually realizes this guy is a narcissist, and he's just asking if he's even capable of understanding if he's been blown the fuck out. Thank you, Joe. I would ask him the same question.
The best way to do a debate is to completely understand the other side's position.
Yeah.
Understand it as good or better than they understand it. And so I've read widely in socialistic literature. I think I do understand it. It's.
I guarantee you that if I walked up to this motherfucker and asked him what he thought socialism was, he would start talking about Venezuela. There is a 0% chance, literally 0% chance, he's familiar with economic democracy. There is no fucking way. I will eat my own left hand if I ever talk to this guy and he knows what socialism is.
It's a type of utopianism. It's an
Okay.
attempt to change human nature.
Yep.
If we would all love each other,
Yep.
if we'd all share equally, then the world would be a better place. And hey, guess what? It probably would be if we were naturally that way. But
left hand saved.
We look first generally for ourselves and our own families, and then our growing circle of relationships that we develop. It's natural to want your own children to have advantages. That's just.
What the fuck does this have to do with capitalism or socialism? Yeah, it's natural for people to want their children to have advantages, so isn't it in their own interest to develop a system which provides them economic and political democracy, which allows them to privilege their children? He's talking about inheritance. Inheritance has nothing to do with capitalism. Inheritance was a thing thousands of years before capitalism existed. See, I think the best way to defeat socialists is to understand their own arguments. So anyway, socialism is when you want to rewrite human nature to make everybody share everything.
Human nature to want your children to flourish because you raise them, you love them. And somehow or another to say that's unfair is cutting against human nature. People are always going to look for advantages or privileges, so to speak, for their children.
Yeah,
I would argue that socialism is so powerful because it is in line with human nature. Socialism is capitalism's dark shadow. In every capitalist country across the world, there are socialist advocates and activists. No matter how much you hang us, shoot us, bomb our houses, torch our villages, there are always, I say are, like I'm like a fucking white boy at a computer, but there always will be socialism. There always will be socialists. Because there's something very tenacious about democracy. And the spirit of democracy is what socialists fight for.
People don't like when people have advantages and have victories, because then someone has to lose. When someone loses, they equate that someone losing with a bad feeling, with that person being victimized. Like there's some.
All right, so here's a big idea we talk about in conscious leadership. We have a chapter called Find Win-Win-Win Solutions.
Oh, God.
The metaphors that we use to think about society tend to be very binary, good versus evil, light versus darkness, win versus lose. And so they tend to think of business as a win-lose game. Somebody wins and somebody else is losing. But the beauty of capitalism is it's a win-win-win game. It's an infinite game. It's a game because the customers are winning or they wouldn't trade. The employees are winning. How are the customers winning? They're getting products and services and there's competition to make those services and products better. The employees are winning because they have jobs and opportunities to grow, benefits are paid, and they do that voluntarily. They're not forced to work for any particular company. They do it because they think it's in their best interest. Win for the employees.
Okay. So this is a fundamentally fallacious argument. The idea that everyone is winning because everyone benefits from a system. First of all, it's funny that he would impugn socialism for utopianism and then make the argument that capitalism is a magical ideology that benefits all human beings. So, yeah. So, first of all, let's talk about coercion and let's talk about utopianism. So, let me give you an argument, okay? I am the leader of a banana republic. I am a dictator, and I am telling all of my poor dirty peasants, this dictatorship is a win-win. Is it not? This dictatorship is a win-win. I'm winning, of course, because I'm the dictator, But all of you peasants, you would starve were it not for the rations that I provide you every other week. You would die without those. So you're winning. I mean, you're getting from this. You would die otherwise. I'm not the only one winning. I don't have to give you food. Well, I mean, of course I do, because otherwise I wouldn't have any slaves to work in my gold mines. But, you know, you're winning too because you get to live a little. The problem with this everyone winning argument is that it negates the possibility that people could be winning a fuckload more, and they're not. You could make this argument about feudal lords, you know? Oh, the serfs are winning, of course, because if I didn't permit them to work on the land I owe, then they would be forced out into the wilderness. They would have to hunt, and many of them, the women and children folk, would starve and die, certainly, and be eaten by bears or something. I don't know. You can make this argument for any autocratic system. But let's talk about the three groups he was referring to. So he said there are three groups here: the employees, the customers, and of course the business owners. The business owners, they're winning. Not going to deny that. Business owners are winning in capitalism. Not going to deny that. But they are a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of the population, especially when we're talking about these huge businesses, you know? There's an old little mathematical quirk of the South, you know, that about, I think, like a third of white families in the South had a slave, but most of those families had one slave. But most slaves didn't work for single white families. They worked on plantations, because one plantation run by one white family can have 500 slaves. And much in the same way, there may be many business owners in America, but most employed people work for large businesses, or larger than mom and pop stores, certainly. And those are the people we're talking about, fundamentally. Do you think he genuinely believes the shit he's saying? Yes, I believe he believes everything that he is saying. So, we're talking then about the consumers and about the employees. Well, let's leave aside the consumers for a second. What about the employees? Sure, they're winning, and that they get paid a wage, or maybe they get discounts. They can't unionize, though. They don't get paid very much. In fact, if you take a look at the pay of your average Whole Foods employee and you chart it out against worker productivity and inflation, they are making shockingly little for their labor, whereas a very small number of people on top are extorting a significant amount of wealth from their labor. Now, you could say they're winning in the sense that they're not getting nothing, but they could be getting a hell of a lot more. These hundreds of thousands of workers, they could be getting equity. They could be getting real democratic control of the businesses that they work in, the Whole Foods. And if they did that, they would all genuinely be winners, because they would be sharing in the rewards of their labor. They would be benefiting to the greatest imaginable extent from the consequences of their actions. But then you take, say, the consumers. Folks, how many of you shop at Whole Foods? Follow-up question. How many of you think Whole Foods is too fucking expensive? Yeah, there we go. If you've ever been to a Whole Foods, yeah, it's decently pricey. Yeah, it's pretty fucking pricey, I would say. It appeals to a very specific class of yuppies, and I'm sure they enjoy their products, but how much do you think Whole Foods actually paid for any of their lavender oil-soaked incense packages that they sell for $5? Or for their organic oranges? Not very much. See, capitalism, no matter what this guy will tell you, capitalism is all about supply and demand. It's all about maximizing profits for the business owner. It's all about getting as much money as you can, squeezing every cent out of the consumer. And in order to do that, you want to charge them the highest price possible that they are still willing to pay. You could sell everything for a cent, and if Whole Foods sold everything for a cent, every store would be empty within 24 hours. But you're not going to make much off that. You could sell everything for $1 million, and hey, if you ever make a sale, that's your whole month's profits there. But, did I say sold? Sold. You could sell it all for $1 million, but nobody's going to buy it. You want to find an equilibrium where you can maximize your profits. But here's the thing. What if that equilibrium is being informed by coercive forces the consumer has no influence over? This isn't so much of a problem with Whole Foods, because Whole Foods isn't really like a staple grocery store for most people. But if you don't have many other grocery stores in your area, people might buy higher prices than they would be willing to otherwise, specifically due to a lack of supply in the area, in which case the price curve goes up. Yeah, it's no Safeway after all. It's no pavilions. Food deserts can contribute to this problem. What if advertising has convinced people that these items are worth more than they actually are? What is an item worth? A capitalist will tell you that a product is worth what people will pay for it. Okay, people will pay any amount of money for life-saving surgery. So, is an appendectomy worth $3 million? Is it worth an infinite amount of money? What about insulin for your child? How much money is that worth? See, the problem is, for certain items, essentials, like food, it can be very difficult to fairly ascertain the worth of certain items. What if a high price for an item is normalized in every grocery store across the country just because they could make more money from it? Say, bread. I don't know how much it costs to make a loaf of bread. Like the market, like the factory price. I don't know. Say it's $1. It's definitely not $1, but let's say it's $1. And so you could buy it from the manufacturer for $1. But bread sales are up. They make advertisements for bread. And all of the grocery stores, they say bread prices are rising because gas is more expensive, because reduced subsidies on wheat production, because blah, blah, blah. Where they're unionizing, so on and so forth. So the bread loaf, initially priced for the seller at $1, sold back at $3, goes up to $4 and $5 and $6. And then you're buying loaves of bread for $8 one day. It's 2024. And people like bread. People aren't going to stop buying bread. Bread is a staple of a lot of really classic and important dishes. It costs $8 now. Are people going to buy bread less? Maybe a little bit. But why should they have to pay $8? What if all the bread loaves all around the country, they start costing more and more and more? And it becomes very difficult to know whether you're getting shafted. There's actually a bread price fixing cartel in Canada. Remember what Pete Buttigieg did? Wait, where's that clip? Remember that one guy who grilled Pete Buttigieg? There's a reason why I chose bread, after all. There's that hilarious clip. Yeah, here we go.
You've been on the front lines of corporate downsizing. You've been on the front lines of corporate price fixing. You've been on the front lines of our misadventures.
I'm sorry,
of our misadventures in foreign policy. You've had direct experience of many of the things that make a lot of young people very angry about the way that this country is operating right now. You don't seem to embody that anger.
So the proposition that I've been on the front lines of corporate price fixing is just to get that out of the way.
You worked for a company that was fixing bread prices.
No, I worked for a consulting company that had a client that may have been involved in fixing, or was apparently in a scandal. I was not aware of the Canadian bread pricing scandal until last night.
By the way, Benjamin Applebaum, we stand a king. Vaush, this take makes no sense. Cartels are already illegal and regulated markets prevent this type of price hike. Price fixing is illegal? Wait, you're fixing bread prices? They can't do that. That's illegal. Regulated markets can work to prevent these types of price hikes. But what people like dipshit McGee over here are advocating for is not regulated markets leading to a win-win-win situation. What he's advocating for is for the fundamental laws of supply and demand, of brute capitalism, being beneficial to everyone who participates in it. But there are externalities, there are coercive factors. There are so many things in a market economy that can prevent a given situation from being win-win-win. And that was the only point that I was trying to make. Corporations get up to a lot of really fucky stuff, and there are ways that you can fuck an economy without engaging in illegal behavior. What is a monopoly exactly? Remember back in the day when Microsoft actually had to pump money into Apple because Apple was failing and it needed to do better to prevent Windows from being considered a monopoly? That is a wild situation to be in. That is literally paid opposition. What about all the counties in America where there is one ISP available? What kind of market choice do you get then? What about when corporations start using loads of money to lobby politicians to implement laws that make it easier for corporations to form monopolies? The only point that I'm getting at here is that capitalism is not always spectacular at ensuring fair distribution of resources.
The suppliers who are trading with the business, they're winning as well, or they wouldn't make the exchanges.
Listen to me, how measured I am. The only reason I'm not yelling is because of my cough, but like I'm coming off like some sort of fucking educator, you know?
Investors are winning or they wouldn't make the investments. And the larger society is winning because business is the engine that creates all the money that goes into nonprofits and governments. Without business, there is no government and there is no nonprofit sector because those are ultimately supplied through what business creates.
So that is literally delusional. The only reason private sectors exist is because of the government facilitating. Capitalism can't exist without a government. Who do you think protects property rights? Yeah, no. A labor creates all of this, but no, the private. You think the government and non-government organizations rely on the private sector to exist? Ridiculous. Whole food suppliers use prison labor? Oh. Whole Foods sold products made by prison workers for more than a decade, and this is from 2015, so maybe a decade and a half now. Nice. Well, hey, that's a win-win-win-win. These prisoners, now they get to make 8 cents an hour doing whatever the fuck they're doing. We're all winning.
So business is a win-win-win game.
Win,
all
win,
of these
win,
stakeholders
There's
are
another
winning,
win
and that's
there.
why capitalism lifts society up. Socialism is an attempt to reverse that back to a win-lose game. And that's why it always fails. And
I cannot get over the extraordinary arrogance of a man who describes himself as the type of person to understand the positions he's arguing against, and then to make these literal PragerU type arguments on a talk with Joe Rogan. If I was this wealthy and had this much free time in my hands, I would be fucking embarrassed to be this ignorant of a subject like this.
that's why capitalism
How is it an
always
attempt
wins.
to bring it back to a win-lose game? In what way?
Get them.
The ones that are winning, so to speak, the business people are clamped down, so they're not allowed to win. It's like, we're going to take your success and we're going to redistribute it. So that, as again, you said earlier on, incentives matter. But we're going to take away the incentives for business to really flourish and succeed.
Wait, so it's going to take away the money, but then it's going to take away the incentives? What incentives? Taxation? What is he talking about? All of the people like this are always 2 or 3 questions away, 2 or 3 clarifying questions away from a complete collapse of their ideology. This guy thinks social democracy is socialism. He's actually arguing against taxation right now.
They should do it from altruistic reasons. And we may do some things for altruistic reasons, but you cannot build a society around it.
When you're talking about win-win-win, this is a very, in many ways, I see what you're saying, but there are things that are negative that are associated with profit and innovation and particularly expanding industry, right? For particularly environmental impacts. Like when you say win-win-win, like there's very rarely especially when you're dealing with creating and designing and building things, you've got a negative impact in some way environmentally.
Two points. First of all, historically, socialism's been far worse polluter than capitalism.
That is not a response to the question. Also, even in socialist governments, to the extent that they have existed, industry was the problem in both systems. And right now, we live in America, which is capitalist, and that's what we're dealing with right now.
How so? Countries. Well, if you just look at the environmental destruction that the Soviet Union left behind it, it was a...
That is true. The Soviet Union did a lot of... Yeah, they weren't great. But the Soviet Union wasn't socialist, so it doesn't matter.
Complete disaster.
Right, but this is socialism done wrong, John. We're going to do it right here.
Who has done it right, Joe?
No
one's done it right.
But the Soviet Union is a bad example.
No,
Stalin was...
Yeah, but all of Eastern Europe...
Wait, does Joe know? Does Joe know that the Soviet Union wasn't socialist? No, wait, that was good. He actually... wait, yeah. He knows. But Comrade Joe, he knows.
There's no incentive to protect the common good in socialism.
What?
And they don't. When the government has a monopoly of all decisions...
Yep, he thinks the government owning...
in power making, they don't tend to look out for the environment. That's one of the myths.
You also take away agency from people, and you take away their...
No. He didn't answer. You asked him how he felt about environmental externalities under capitalism, and he said, socialism does it too, Stalin, USSR. He didn't answer the question. Don't let him run away from that, Joe.
Their desire to improve and do better. And without incentive, people just don't perform the same way.
But the beautiful thing about business, let's concede a partial truth to what you said, that there will be unintended negative consequences, as you say, environmentally.
Let's say okay, Joe, I'll entertain this idea. Let's say hypothetically there's a possibility that there are some negative externalities to capitalism. Okay, I'll entertain this.
Well, that's why you have to regulate business to a certain extent. That's why you have to make people responsible for their environmental pollutants.
But you just said socialism is bad because it takes away the incentives for business. And government regulation involves taking away incentives for business. That's the whole point of regulation. If they weren't taking away incentives, then they wouldn't need to do it at all.
And because business innovates and has an incentive to innovate, business can innovate and create solutions to those environmental problems.
Okay, let me stop you there for a second. When you say make people responsible for their environmental pollutants, then we're going to have to deal with another aspect of capitalism, and that's the effect that special interest groups and lobbyists have on politicians.
Joe!
Because
God, I really hope I can talk to Joe someday. I really hope. It's not impossible, even though I've shit-talked him a lot. I think that fundamentally, internally, like deep on the inside, I really do think that Joe is probably a good person, like a good-natured person. I think it's just, there are so many different types of people that watch his show, and so many different types of people he talks to, that like it feels so fucking frenetic. It's so hard to know what line he's on. That said, I've shit talked him so many times, so I have no fucking idea. We'll see.
They create laws that shield these big businesses from consequences from these negative actions. So by saying that...
But I do think I could win him over. I do think so. I think I could speak to Joe. I feel like Joe and I operate on a very similar wavelength in very specific ways. I think I could. Maybe not make him a socialist, but I think I could make a goddamn good argument. Get him on the trans memes. I don't think there's any point even trying that. I don't think I can win him over in any of the trans stuff. He does have a huge blind spot when it comes to trans issues. I'm not going to bother Kyle Kalinske by getting me set up. I'm a 300K YouTuber Andy, okay? Let's give it a little bit, okay? We're going to get bigger. We're going to give it a shot, okay?
They have to clean up their problem. The only way that's ever going to happen is if they're not protected, if they don't use that influence and money.
Totally agree.
So this is where I think a lot of people have a valid argument against capitalism. Capitalism has kind of fucked over our system of government in a way, because money has gotten so deeply involved with super PACs and lobbyists, and there's so much money involved that it changes the way we govern things.
Is that a flaw of capitalism or is that a flaw of government?
Nah, you don't get... Government has existed since the beginning of time. You can't what is that? Like, the cancer is ravaging your body, sir. We need to operate immediately. Well, is it a problem with the cancer or is it a problem with the body? The government exists, okay? The government, it is what it is. We can change it. So let's change it, my dude. If your problem is with the government, why don't we outlaw lobbying? Why don't we outlaw special interest groups, or at least heavily restrict them? You think the government's the issue? Okay, let's make some changes to the government then. But those changes will be designed to limit the influence of businesses.
I think it's a flaw of government, but that government has been influenced by capitalism. By capitalism's desire for universal growth, for constant growth.
The sad truth is that humanity is not perfectible.
I love that. Whenever you hear an argument like this person is lost. Whenever there's a criticism and they're like, listen, people aren't perfect, so you're asking a lot. Joe's not asking for a lot right now. Joe's asking a very specific, very simple, very important question about regulatory capture and about special interest groups. And this guy's response is, we can't be perfect, bro. We can't like fix everything. Nobody's nerfect.
You can never create the perfect system. And the attempt to create the perfect system, the perfect is the enemy of the good. Right. Capitalism is not perfect. It does not, because human choices and what people want varies. Capitalism will sell cigarettes to people because that's what people want. It gives them pleasure, but it's bad for their health. But
this has nothing to do with what we're talking about. Listen to how far this guy is backpedaled. He's like, dude, capitalism is great. And then Joe's like, what about externalities? And he's like, well, you need regulation, even though earlier I spoke against regulation. And then Joe's like, okay, but what about like special interest groups? He's like, well, the government's bad too. He's like, okay, yeah, I know, but we can make changes to the government. He's like, well, nobody's perfect. This dude does not want to acknowledge that there are problems with businesses that could be addressed by adding additional laws. You know why? Because this guy's the CEO, not the stockholder. I imagine he owns stock as well, but this guy is not the fucking board, the shareholder board, okay? If this guy went on Joe Rogan and advocated for the abolition of special interest groups, I know he'd be getting some angry fucking phone calls the next day. So he has to, this is the material interest, baby. He's got to wheel it back. Nobody's perfect, bro. You can't fix problems in a system, bro. Gotta roll it back.
They're giving people what they want. It's the same thing in any type of externality. That's not deliberately done to harm the society. It's sort of a byproduct.
Right, but this is why win-win-win doesn't really work. It's not really win-win-win. It's win most of the time, but with some negative consequences that are better than the alternative, right?
But what you strive for is to take those externalities or those negative consequences and try to, through good government, to minimize them or lessen them. I'll give you an example. So you used to live in L.A. Well, when I went to L.A. back in the early 80s, it was like going to New Delhi today. I couldn't see. My lungs hurt less than 24 hours. Right. But through good regulations, the air in L.A. is a fraction as polluted as it was.
Except if you were doing this interview back in the 1980s and you were the CEO of a gasoline company, you would have made the same argument about how you can't make a perfect system. Joe Rogan would have said, hey, your special interest groups sure are preventing the government from passing laws about the cleanliness of gas the cars use. And he's like, well, you can't fix everything. This apologism, this insistence on saying things are as good as they ever going to be, you can't make society perfect, this is how oligarchs delude you into believing you've reached the best of worlds. We are nowhere near the best of worlds.
40 years ago, we have been able to clean it up. That is an example of how you can take the worst impacts of industrialization and ameliorate them or lessen them.
Thank you. They did the same thing back 100 years ago, you know? If you went back and read some of the pamphlets that they were producing, you know, the little newspaper articles and shit, back 100 years ago, back in 1920, they said the exact same stuff. You can't expect more from corporations. They're doing as much as they can. They're producing all the value in society. You're already winning because you're getting the benefit of the fucking commodities they produce, and that's that. Now, well. Ah, yes, this is a wonderful, wonderful meme. This is one of my favorite little political comics. 1842. If workers can legally strike, no business will be able to survive. 1887. Give blacks an entire $1 for a day's labor? Might as well burn my business to the ground. 1912. Worker deaths are tragedy, but anti-sweatshop laws would be the death of industry in America. 1915. When workers can't be fired for joining a union, how can anyone stay in business? I just want to do all the voices. 1924. Banning child labor would destroy the economy. Right, little Timmy? That's right. 1938. We can't have a 40-hour work week because if we do, there'll be no employers left to hire anyone. 1964. Equal pay for women and the N-word. We're past that part of our career. Business can't stay afloat if federal regulations strangle us. 1970. Health and safety laws are a formula for massive permanent unemployment. Now, if the new labor rights law passes, then business is doomed. Yeah, it's the same. It's the same thing. Isn't it weird how capitalists will argue how tenacious and essential businesses are, but then they'll say that they're so incredibly fragile that even the most limited and like meager of government regulations will completely destroy industry? It's interesting how that Linky, someone else link it. Fuck you. Duke Stamina, it's going to come in soon. And yeah, Duke Stamina, so far the lighting is a little bit better. I appreciate you helping me with my camera settings. Thank you all who are watching. If you're enjoying this stream, please do subscribe to the channel. I really do appreciate it. By the way, guys, a special feature is coming out soon to this channel. I know you all have been looking forward to it, and I'm happy to introduce it soon. It's still in development, of course, but group gifted subs, random group gifted subs here in chat. So rather than you having to select individuals that you want to do a gifted sub to, you can just do 5 and it'll just choose people and kablamo, you know? It's something you can do on Twitch. You know, I don't know. It's a good feature. It's good. It's a good feature. It's a good thing. Your opinion about the Poke drama would actually be so huge because there are so many incels that are going to get radicalized by that shit. Dude, I'm not capable of... No. That's so outside of my wheelhouse. I'm not even on Twitch. I'm not even on Twitch. Do it? How do I... Do normie shit, this is a gateway drug? No, I can't do it. I don't even have the materials necessary to cover it. I remember the points of the drama, but I would need like links and images. No, we're not doing it. There is something else that we're going to do, though. Yeah, Zan covered it. Go check out Zan's video. I'm excited. Oh, excuse me. Goodness. All right, everyone, you ready? Any comment about 3144? What is this? What is this? I don't care. All right. Yesterday, I made a video where I encouraged people, if they were a conservative or more conservative than me, to email me at a YouTube, not YouTube, a Gmail account called askvaush@gmail.com. I have received over 1,000 emails since then. I have not had a chance to go through all of them, but I've gone through a few, and I've selected a few. And my goal in this is that I feel it important to remind the people who watch that fundamentally most people agree that it's important to make this country and this world better, and that the best way to do that is to agree on the solutions to agreed upon problems. So I got a lot of questions, and I'm going to answer them, and I'm going to try. I've got, how many do I have here? Like 10? We're going to get into it, people, okay? Did you filter out the troll email? Yeah, there were plenty of troll emails, of course, but there were plenty of non-troll emails as well. So let me take a peep at this, okay? Hey, Vaush, you can call me Lectivol, and I'd consider myself a liberal. My question is there something on the left for young men? What I mean is that lots of stuff about gender that I watch is about women, feminism, or trans people, and the privilege that we men have. So as to avoid the incel, MGTOW, red pill bullshit that seems so prevalent, and with the right-wing / white supremacist stuff, is there any content creator that's focused or has content about new masculinities or something like that? Well, the answer is I don't actually have a response to you with regards to content creators who focus on men's issues from a perspective that I'd consider healthy, apart from me. I know Zan does it. ContraPoints' men video is good. I know Lance does it from the Serve. Our Relevant does. Philosophy Tube has talked about it. Philosophy Tube's video on the abuse that he suffered, spoilers, was really, really, really good. Beau of the Fifth Column hits this. The point here is, and I think this is a fairly new development, okay? I'm going to speak ill for a moment. The second wave feminism was incredibly exclusionary. A lot of people talk about second wave feminism being exclusionary because it was really about white women. Let's be real, though. Any feminism that doesn't include the interests and perspective of men, fucking loser feminism. Honestly, shit tier feminism. Cringe. Not good, people. I mean, for most of society, men and women, we got it split kind of half and half, you know, not exactly, but more or less. And you can't address gender-related issues exclusively by focusing on the perspectives of women. You can't do that. Can you imagine an anti-racist movement that was exclusively about black liberation, but not about normalizing racial relations with white people? You probably can't, because Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was smarter than that. Even the Black Panthers, which were a pretty, like your Hotep movements or whatever, even the Black Panthers were really, really willing to engage in the kind of class-based solidarity. That's one of the reasons why the government killed them off, you know, or at least tried to force them out of the ring. It's because they were so effective at challenging these deeply held biases. The New Black Panthers are about that. The New Black Panthers have nothing to do with the real Black Panthers. The New Black Panther Party is a anti-Semitic, radical, racist movement. They're not good. It's not good. It's important to focus on men's issues because men are also affected by negative aspects of gender relations in this country. There are issues in which men are actually hurt more than women. Some lefty circles consider this like taboo to say, but it's 100% true. So I think this is a developing field of thought. I think this is something we are working on more. And I hope that that continues because there are a lot of young men who feel really lost without this new type of masculinity that they can adhere to, without a new idea of what it means to be masculine or to be a man. I've talked about this before, and I'll talk about it again. I think that Zagreus from the game Hades does a really, really good job of portraying a healthy masculinity. And by healthy masculinity, I don't mean some latte-sipping, soy-chugging, pajama-wearing, faffy, hipster glasses dipshit masculinity, or whatever it is I'm doing. I mean muscular, aggressive, athletic, powerful masculinity. That's also really cool. My personal opinion. Just saying. Next up. Hey, you can just call me Kyle. I orbit your community. Used to lurk the Chud channel. I've got a very centrist question. Would anarchy mean the end of religion? Could those two things coexist at all? I don't think any anarchist society could do anything meaningful to restrict people's religious freedoms. I would like to believe that in an anarchist society, people would be less religiously oriented, but no. No anarchist society, or at least not intrinsically. There's nothing intrinsic to anarchism that involves the dissolution of religious freedom. I think that people should be able to be religious if they want. I don't agree with it, but I don't think I think turkey's the worst meal in the Thanksgiving meal. But other people like that, and if I was Grand Premier of America, I wouldn't take that away from you, you know. And we have hello Vaush. This is from Josh. As a person more aligned with the center-right, I have an interest, like most people, in the balance of power in the Supreme Court. I find the idea of a court made up of judges with the same judicial philosophy to be inadequate. How would you feel about structuring the court in a way that requires a designated amount of seats to each judicial philosophy? So this is an interesting question. Like, what if you had 3 seats that were constitutional originalists, and then you had 3 seats which were more like activist judges? My simple answer to this is I don't think it matters. I don't think there's any such thing as a apolitical judicial philosophy. Fundamentally, I think that everyone has political biases, even judges, and they will adopt any outcomes that suit their political interests, with some exceptions. Take, for example, Scalia. If you take a look at Scalia's record, he had some insane fucking conclusions. And many of them he would justify through a veil of constitutional originalism, but many of them, at least from what I've read from other people, like analyzing his perspective in the Constitution, that were nonsensical, you know? Like, they were ridiculous. It just so happened to be a coincidence that Scalia's decisions always supported a far-right perspective, you know? Like, it was originalism. You know, he was just reading the text of the document. He just kept arriving at conservative conclusions over and over and over again, even if it seemed completely divorced from the perspective of the Constitution. I don't really believe that judicial philosophies are that relevant. At the end of the day, I really just think it's a matter of the individual judges, their political leanings, and the extent to which they're going to let their political leanings affect their outcomes. There are instances of judges with a conservative leaning who end up making pretty progressive choices. A pretty good example of that being, oh God, I forget names so easily. The judge that Donald Trump appointed, Gorsuch. Yeah. Gorsuch with the Native American Oklahoma decision. Yeah, I would not have expected that from a Trump appointee, but he seemed to do a really good job, in my opinion, constitutionally analyzing the validity of the claims made by the indigenous people there. And I think that's great. Yeah, the trans discrimination thing too. Now, is that because Gorsuch is top secretly super progressive? Or is it because he's honest with his interpretation of the Constitution? I don't know. But I don't think the philosophy in these cases is as important as the character of the judge themselves. But I'm not a constitutional scholar, not even close. So I could be wrong on that. From William, would you say that Islam is an evil and a hateful ideology based on its teachings in the Quran, regardless of the beliefs of individual Muslims? Like when you say ACAB, you don't actually mean all cops are bastards, but the system of policing is a bastard. I think that the fundamental texts of most religions are pretty irrelevant to the beliefs of the people who have them. There are good Christians and good Muslims and bad Christians and bad Muslims. I mean, if you want me to be like super edgy, like Reddit atheist, I think that religion in general is pretty evil and hateful because it generally teaches an incredibly morally duistic perspective where people who don't believe what you believe end up going to hell, you know, or at the very least are disprivileged in some existential way. I think that the concept of people who have a different belief set from you being condemned to eternal punishment is pretty fucked up. The Jews don't believe in hell. But even then, you get stuck in purgatory and only they go to heaven, right? I still think that's pretty fucked up, you know? And it leads to a really, really weird power dynamic in the perceived minds of religious people where, you know, you may pick on the Christian the nerd in school or whatever, but then he picks up his book and he's like, I'll be laughing at you from heaven. And of course we all rot when we die, at least in my opinion, but I don't like religion in general. But I don't think that Muslims or the religion of Islam is any more disposed towards evil than Christianity is, like, at all. I mean, we like to forget now because, like, a couple thousand people died in 9/11 and, like, we get a couple Muslim terrorist attacks or whatever. But Christians kind of ran a global terror campaign for 1,000 years during the Crusades. There are people like Crowder who will try to tell you that it was like self-defense. They'll say that. Usually Nazis. They'll be like the Crusades are self-defense, but no. Even George Bush said the war on Iraq was something that he was inspired to wage from God. How many people died in Iraq? How many hundreds of thousands of people died? How many more died then from starvation and from deprivation economically? Yeah, I don't know. At the end of the day, I think that, like many other things, religion is a system of self-justification that will lend moral weight to the beliefs of people in power. And that's about it. Here we go. I think this is a spicy one. From Louis. How do you handle the contradiction of the trans question? Simultaneously a social construct, yet also okay with trans people essentializing gendered traits. You don't have much of an argument in this regard and will forever keep socially conservative people out by not accepting that there are essentialist characteristics and that playing with gender can be detrimental. Most of you are okay with straight people questioning their identity, but they are unwilling to supply the same critique to people who have flipped the gender switch, so to speak. I've no issue with trans people, but the LGBT is anti-normativity by default and just wants the roles reversed when they're unable to confront this contradiction. So there are a lot of things here, and only one of them is a question, and the rest of them are just statements. So I'm going to try my best to break this down. So, yes, LGBT people are by definition anti-normative because heteronormativity is the system that we live in. So by being gay, you kind of are anti-normative, but that's not really like a political thing. That's just the normativity, the political nature of the heteronormativity is what makes them anti-normative, You don't get to blame LGBT people for being, like, subversive when you're the one focusing on making a given system like the normative natural state of man, when in reality humans have been all sorts of fucking things throughout history. So you say they want the roles reversed. No LGBT people want to, like, oppress straight cis people. I don't know what you mean by roles reversed. So you say that gender is a social construct, which I agree with, but then you say trans people want to essentialize gendered traits. I don't know what you mean by that. You mean like a trans girl will wear a dress and put makeup on and wear a wig or grow their hair long because those are feminine traits? Here's the secret, okay? Trans women don't wear dresses and makeup because they think it makes them more of a woman. They wear it because they want to be seen as more of a woman. If you ask a trans woman, like, is it your dress that makes you a woman? They're not going to say yes. They're going to say they wear the dress and the makeup and shit, either because they like it, which I imagine a lot of them do, and also because they want to be recognized as feminine and as a woman, which they do. And that's not mutually exclusive with gender being a social construct, Like, what do I do that's masculine? I don't know. I'm wearing a t-shirt right now. Working out. Having big muscles being a masculine thing. Beard, let's go with beard, okay? Having a big beard, that's, like, considered a masculine thing. But if you asked me, am I more of a man than a guy who has a clean-shaven face? Or if you ask me if I have my beard because it makes me a man, I'm going to say no, of course not. I just have a beard because I like having a beard, and I like that it makes me appear more masculine. I appreciate that. But it's not an essential thing. And then you go on to say, you don't have much of an argument in this regard and will forever keep socially conservative people out by not accepting there are essentialist characteristics. I don't know what you mean by essentialist characteristics. If you mean sex, then I would say that generally speaking, having a penis is fairly essentialist to being XY, or having a womb is fairly essential as to being XX. Even then, there are exceptions, of course, but that's not what we're talking about when we're talking about gender, you know? And that playing with gender can be detrimental. I don't know what you mean by playing with gender. Most of you are okay with straight people questioning their identity, sure, but they're unwilling to supply the same critique to people who have flipped the gender switch, so to speak. So you're saying that people like me, excuse me, you're saying people like me aren't okay with trans people questioning their identity? I just don't understand what you mean here. But I am. And by the way, I'm fine. Some people on the right, they'll say like, the left can't handle all these people who are detransitioning. The number of people who detransition is very small, and most of the ones who do so for reasons that are usually very complicated and personal. But if a person thinks they're NB or trans, and then they're like, and they go back to like identifying cis, I'm fine with that. I just want people to be happy. I'm not arguing with that conceptually. Anyway, from Mustang, I've been thinking about this for a while. Goodness, excuse me. I don't have corona, thank you. But I wasn't sure how to put it into words or who to ask about it because a lot of people don't seem to recognize different types of blackface / brownface / yellowface, and when it's brought up, they only think of minstrel shows and racist things like that. What are your opinions on blackface that doesn't portray black people negatively? Let me see. They give some reasons why blackface is usually racist. For example, Robert Downey Jr.'s blackface in Tropic Thunder. There we go. Any conversation about blackface has to include Tropic Thunder. I've heard other streamers say it doesn't really matter or that it's not that important of an issue, which may be true, but it doesn't seem like enough of a response to me. How do you feel about this? Good, bad, doesn't matter, important issue, etc. Well, it's not an important issue. Even today, blackface is an incredibly antiquated way of expressing racism. Most racism is in like subtle policy decisions and political affiliations. Like most black people aren't getting their daily dose of white racism from people wearing striped pants, doing minstrel show dances in blackface. Like that's not, it's a very antiquated sort of way of being racist. Nowadays, people who do blackface for racism are usually like really, really, really racist, like unbelievably racist, you know? And they usually give it away in ways other than their blackface. You can usually tell if a person is the blackface for racism type beforehand. Are there ways to do blackface good? Well, first of all, I'm a white dude, so I preempt everything I'm about to say by pointing out that I'm a white dude. Yeah, I think in Tropic Thunder it was pretty okay. Yeah, you know what? Yeah, I do. Because the whole joke in Tropic Thunder was that he was a method actor who was so committed to his role that he got skin darkening surgery, and other people were making fun of him for doing that. It wasn't just him in blackface. The point is that it was bad that he did it. So it was bad that he did it, and the black co-star in that movie made fun of him for doing it, and the movie was making fun of him for doing it. It's kind of like the question, is it bad to say the N-word if you're an actor in a movie and your character is racist? Like, can we not depict racism in movies anymore? You know what I mean? So I think contextually, basically anything can be justifiable, especially in art. Oh yeah, and nobody asked him to do it. Yeah, they like made fun of him because he just did it himself. He voted for Biden, yeah. I think you can portray anything in art. And even outside of art, there are other ways that different types of sort of racial caricatures can be done responsibly. For example, there are black dance crews that paint their faces white, but when they do that, they're not imitating white people. It's just an aesthetic flourish. They're changing the tone of their skin. But when you look at a black dancer who's painted their face porcelain white, you don't think, and the point of that art usually isn't to think, they're a white person. It's usually like, oh, their face is just white. When whiteface is done by black people, like in White Chicks or by Dave Chappelle or what that shit, you know, it's usually funny because there's not really that underlying animosity. Can it be done well with blackface? I think anything can be done well. It's about the reception. And I'll tell you this, okay? I measure racism consequentially. Is a thing racist? Well, how much does it enable racism? How much does it hurt black people? How much does it, you know, embolden other racists? So on and so forth. I don't think Tropic Thunder, I don't even remember there being that much of a controversy about it when it came out. Am I misremembering? Were there like black activist groups that were really upset about Tropic Thunder? Because I don't think so. Yeah, I'm sure there were some people, but I don't think there was like this big, you know. Yeah, I don't think anyone really much cared because I think it was handled decently. So yeah, I'd say that's fine. Of course, 98% of the time, if blackface is being done, it's probably not good. There was that one episode, was it of The Office? Where a guy role plays as a drow, a dark elf, and he paints his whole face black. The community, and not The Office. Thank you, Community. He painted himself as a drow, which they're black-skinned elves, literally black, not brown, because black people are brown actually, but literally black. And they actually removed that episode in the wake of BLM, which I thought was kind of dumb. Like, were black people really upset about the episode where the dweeby character painted himself? Let me see if I can find that. Community black. I know if I Google blackface, it's more likely to. Okay, wait. Yeah, here we go. Okay. Wow. It sure is funny to look at. They were playing like D&D or something like that. Oh, God. Man, that's like a bucket of shoe shine. Jesus Christ. Anyway, I saw the episode. Nothing about the episode was racist. They made fun of him for this action was not celebrated in the context of the episode. But I don't think we should take down episodes. No, it's the lips that's bad there. Yeah, the red lips. Yeah. Well, I don't know if they're painted red or if that's just he didn't color them. I have no idea. Yeah, he voted for Biden twice. When you commit voter fraud for Joe Biden, that's what happens when you that's what happens when you when you bring the fucking bucket of votes over to Georgia. Yeah, I'm gonna move the emails over to the other monitor. All right, what's the next one? Let me see. There is a caveat, which is that you can't do the Jeff Dunham thing of pretending to be a straight man while using a character to express racist stereotypes. The punchline. Yeah, of course. If the joke is that a guy does blackface, wait. If the blackface is that a person's just doing a minstrel show and then you're commenting on the minstrel show, that's probably not a good use of blackface, just generally speaking. Also, Jeff Dunham, probably not good in general, just generally speaking, you know? From Jerry, asking a question on behalf of my father. What differentiates a private firm giving equity to its internal employees from a worker co-op system? Equity just means you get a share. Worker cooperatives imply some degree of internal democracy where you get to elect your managers and make democratic decisions about about how your firm is run. Here we go. From Seth. Why has the path to communism fallen short so many times? I've been watching your content since June. I'm trying to learn more about leftism, though we agree on some things. I can't seem to reconcile this one issue. So many countries who have tried to achieve communism have ended up decaying. Why is this? I know you're not a tanky, so you don't support the USSR or anything like that, but nonetheless, what went wrong with the experiment? What is the fatal flaw of so many of these nations that bar them from ever achieving true communism? Well, I like to think of socialism as economic democracy, which means that we should think of the struggle for socialism as a struggle towards democracy. And there can be, there are a lot of ways that you can take this. So here are some easy leftist answers. A lot of lefties, this is like their straight off the dome answer, okay? CIA sabotage. Is that true? Well, yes, especially in Latin America and at times in Africa and the Middle East and in Southeast Asia and in the rest of the world. Western imperialism and intelligence communities have killed democratically elected leaders, supported coups, armed rebels, and basically done a lot to fuck up legitimate democratic socialism, So that is a reason for some of it. Now, other countries like the USSR didn't get felled by, CIA interventionism, but other countries that weren't destroyed by regime changes, they also had to adopt certain measures to prevent, they call it counter-revolutionary activity, but also foreign intervention. See, the nice thing about the United States of America is that around the time socialism started growing around the world, the U.S. was already situated. We were a strong, developed, industrialized country with a strong civil society, with intelligence agencies, with a domestic military. We were already situated. So, we're strong. And even then, we had to contend with a fair number of spies during World War II and the Cold War. But still, other countries just getting started are much more susceptible to foreign interference. And for that reason, they have to adopt measures to prevent it. And often, those measures are anti-democratic and expensive. There are problems that go beyond this, though. In my personal opinion, if you are to reject economic democracy, as the USSR did, as many countries in Southeast Asia that have called themselves socialist have, if you are just state capitalist, I don't think you are as poised to succeed in the global marketplace as a traditional capitalist economy. The main reason for that being, if you're the USSR, what's the fundamental difference between you and the United States, besides vodka, culture, language, and basically everything else? The main difference is who controls the productive forces in your country. The United States has private firms, they do global business that way, and the USSR has state-run industries. The problem is, due to the way the Cold War developed, those state-run industries were not trading with Western markets. And since the West controlled a significant amount of resources and wealth and labor across the world, far more than the communist world did at that time, since they were mostly developing countries, the USSR, of course, had to industrialize after the 1917 revolution. Mao's China had to industrialize after the revolution. These countries were starting up from the bottom, and now they have to essentially grow being locked out of the global marketplace. America can trade with Europe. America can trade with their proxies and their colonial powers across the world. Who does the USSR get to trade with? Cuba? China? The markets were smaller, and this led to a lot of market deficiencies. I don't think state capitalism is a fundamentally inefficient way of running a society. I think it's cruel and autocratic and despotic and wrong, as I do with laissez-faire capitalism, but I don't think state capitalism is inherently inefficient. I think it can function well. Vietnam, I believe, and it's a mixed economy, but Vietnam, certain elements of it, are functioning very well. Even though I don't think it's socialist, I don't think it's democratic, I don't stan Vietnam, it functions well. So the reason these societies have had such a tepid developing period is in part because the West has opposed economic democracy abroad, and in part because alienation from the global marketplace, which is generally controlled by laissez-faire capitalists, has hurt them. Does that make sense? That's my perspective on this. If we are to see the success of real socialism, of economic democracy, real socialism, it will need to be in a way which does not lock that country out of the global marketplace. And now there's just one global marketplace, by the way. China trades with America. Russia trades with everyone else. Like, there's just one global marketplace now. If a socialist country were to come about and they couldn't trade globally, they would be miserably poor. They would be incapable of developing their own country. Their industry would rot and fail, and they would eventually have some sort of internal coup funded by foreign powers, and the next leader would end up being controlled by the government of the United States. Yes, and that's happened many times before. Free trade, but make it socialist. Step one. Step one. Economic democracy, you maintain global trade relations. Economic democracy spreads across whatever country is capable of adopting it. And then, when enough of these countries are collectively, well, workers' states, then you begin to encourage global trade measures that are amicable towards the global south. I don't think there's a way for a country to completely cut the chains of global capitalism without fucking themselves in the process right now. But step one, you know? Just step one. In my opinion. Nathaniel, thank you for the question. Not a conservative, but struggling to move further left. The only thing keeping me, kill me, from going full socialist, and possibly even further to where you are, is this fear that was put into me by my conservative upbringing that any and all attempts to bring about these changes result in tyranny. I don't tend to have the time to hunt down information that counters this idea. Can you have anything to put me at ease on this point? Well, I did just talk about the ways in which economic democracy could best be brought about. But I will say this. Keep in mind, the system we have now is a tyrannical one. There are literally billions of human beings in the global south that are kept in, through material incentives, through our economic soft power, are kept in perpetual toil because they need to satisfy the economic needs of the global north. And even within our own countries, we live lives which are nominally democratic, but in reality, most of our day-to-day life decisions are controlled by undemocratic forces, like business. So when we think of tyranny, we tend to think of like these really grandiose, like Stalin controls everything. And of course, the USSR was far more tyrannical than America is today, at least domestically. But given what's happened with Trump over the past 4 years, do you really feel like you've had that much of a control over the direction this country is going in? Like, do you really feel like this is a democratic country? Do you feel in control right now? It always get worse, sure, but don't delude yourself into thinking that this is good. There are countries that do this better. There are countries that do this better in parts of the world that we don't think very much of, like Bolivia. Bolivia's political system is more representative than America's is. And their leaders, at least their current leaders, are more representative of the interests of their population than ours are of us. That's cool. Maybe things will get better. James, my friend, why should I support socialism instead of social democracy? Not even trying to challenge you, just genuinely curious. I'll be the first to admit I don't know much about actual socialism. So socialism is composed of two fundamental characteristics. You have economic democracy, that is to say, workers control the means of production, or in more normalized terms, every business is a worker co-op, or everything's run by a highly democratic state. The gist of it. And additionally, you have the decommodification of society, where swaths of the economy that are currently controlled by markets are decommodified. They are made provisionally to people just on the basis of them being alive. We have decommodified systems here in the United States, like public education. And that works out pretty well. And people like Bernie Sanders want this for healthcare. Well, what if we did it for transportation? Well, that could be good. Well, what if we did it for some other things, like banking? Yeah, well, that could be good. You do it far enough, you creep closer and closer towards broader decommodification. There are socialist theorists who are okay with limited elements of a market economy in, like, for example, the luxury sector. Can people have private democratically owned firms to sell Fabergé eggs? Sure. Okay. Sure. Fine. As long as it's democratically owned, fine. Okay. You can have your Fabergé egg business. The problem with social democracy is that it doesn't really fundamentally fix any of the problems our society has. Most of the problems in our society are fundamentally dictated by the antagonism between the working class and the bourgeois. Every ecological regulation, every bit of public sector work, every move against austerity, all of these have to be fought against a group of incredibly powerful, incredibly wealthy people who don't have your interests in mind. In fact, their interests are opposite to yours. The more you get, the less they get. And they want more. They want it all. And I think, frankly, that if we're to have a fair and a just society, it would be much easier for us to just get rid of the opposing class rather than to have to constantly fight against them. Let me give you an example. Folks, constitutional monarchy. Do you want to live in a constitutional monarchy? No elections. It's hereditary. I'm getting 3, 4, 6, 10, 20 no's. Why not? Constitutional monarchies can still provide free education and healthcare. There's no reason why they couldn't. You think you need democratic control of government? Why? If there's a peasant uprising, then that's not to their interest. They want to prevent a peasant uprising. They could provide healthcare. They could provide roads. They could provide everything. They could provide a free market sector of business that cuts prices down and, makes all of your lives better. I live in a democratic constitutional monarchy. I mean just a monarchy, dipshits, not with a prime minister. Wait, I'm sorry. When I said constitutional monarchy, you all thought of England. I mean fucking Magna Carta tier England, okay? Monarchy. You said constitutional? Constitutional monarchy doesn't mean that you have a fucking prime minister with the elected representative. Wait, do you think that they elected absolute monarchy? No! It was a constitutional monarchy back in the day of the Magna Carta. Wait, hold on. Am I wrong on this? Constitutional monarchy is a form of monarchy in which the sovereign exercises an authority in accordance with a written or unwritten constitution. Constitutional monarchies differ from absolute monarchies, for which constitutional monarchs are bound to exercise their powers and authorities within the limits prescribed by an established legal framework. You idiots! Constitutional monarchy literally just means that there are rules on them. I was right, you idiots. It doesn't mean a fucking parliament that you will elect. The Magna Carta would have imposed a fucking constitutional monarchy. An absolute monarch means they can do literally whatever the fuck they want. A constitutional monarch just means that they have a set of rules they work within. Like the Magna Carta. Fucking idiots. I hate you people. Jesus Christ. You're fucking, what's it? My groove. My groove. The Constitution can establish a parliament? That's not implied. You just invented that in your head. Do you think the peasants in fucking 1573 in the great Lord's England were fucking electing local representatives to parliament and they had a fucking prime minister and that prime minister made all the decisions and fucking Henry the 17th was just sitting there on his throne fucking his children instead of like ruling? No! Back then, the monarch did the work. Today, the queen is just a fucking chibi doll who sits on a throne and waits patiently for death. Okay? Fuck you. I'm continuing. The point that I'm getting at here is that all of the things that we want from society can be brought about through an undemocratic political system. The reason we prefer a democratic political system is because it increases the likelihood of us being able to achieve the things we want. And the more democratic we make our society economically, the closer we get to socialism. The oligarchs of today's business world are the monarchs of the old world. They are the unelected leaders whose interests differ from ours. If we remove them by democratizing the workplace, in which case there is no bourgeois, or we're all bourgeois then we fix the problem. Vaush, you're being pedantic. Constitutional monarchies these days are genuinely understood to be figurehead monarchies. Is this just you being an American? Listen, I understand that you all have 40 IQ, okay? But if you were to describe the United Kingdom political system, you would not describe it as a constitutional monarchy. The Queen doesn't do anything, you fucking idiots. Most of the people who are saying this aren't even British, okay? You think the Queen has any fucking political power in the United Kingdom? She's a fucking ceremonial official. No, you don't! It's a parliamentary system! I'm gonna kill myself. Why would the principal descriptive quality of the United Kingdom be a constitutional monarchy when they don't even have a written constitution and their monarch is ceremonial? It's a parliamentary constitutional monarchy? Then it's a good thing I didn't say parliamentary constitutional monarchy. She has the power of appointment. I'm gonna kill myself. Oh my God. Do you guys actually believe the Queen has ceremonial powers? The Queen doesn't do anything to meaningfully challenge the actual power of the Prime Minister. The Queen doesn't do that. Yes, the Queen has responsibilities and roles. They're ceremonial. She could be gotten rid of in an instant. She's a fucking figurehead. Technically, the Queen can veto any bill she wants. And when was the last time she did that? She's not ceremonial. She has government functions that she never exercises. Yeah, 1706. She's ceremonial. It's not a contradiction, Vaush. I live in a constitutional monarchy. Yeah, but that doesn't mean when I say you live in a constitutional monarchy, all of you should assume the parliamentary system in addition to it. Oh my God. I'm gonna kill myself. There are so many fucking pedants in chat who think because they've read a Wikipedia article, you understand. Oh God. The monarchy still owns public lands. They still have significant power. No. If the government wanted to, they could, the SAS could fucking black bag every royal family member, say they all died of COVID, and then seize the land. The government and the business interests, the people in power. The Queen doesn't have power. They are ceremonial, okay? They don't have power, okay? The only real power the Queen has is as a fucking businesswoman, as the head of a system which owns a great deal of wealth. But that's not monarchy, that's just property ownership. That's just being a member of the bourgeois. I'm gonna kill myself. You're wrong, she can dissolve parliament. Oh God, oh my God. You all are so lucky that I'm too bad at typing to actually type out ban messages to all of you. If the Queen attempted to dissolve parliament, she would be black-bagged the next day. You really fucking think the royal family is in charge of the UK? She controls the army? You really think the Queen is the one who controls the military? Yes? Oh my God. I mean, I actually can't tell if I'm getting trolled right now. Is this actually what you people think? I actually can't tell if I'm being... I actually can't tell. I genuinely don't know. I'll never know. I'll move on, but I don't know. I genuinely have no idea. This is the most befuddled I've been for my... I've actually forgotten that I have a cough. You're mostly right, but in Australia, we had a PM who was dismissed by the Crown. Wasn't there some weird... Hold on. Australian PM dismissed by Crown. I would be willing to bet anything. Yeah, hold on. 1975 Australian constitutional crisis, known as the dismissal, culminated on the 11th of November with the dismissal of office of the Prime Minister Gough Whitlam of the Australian Labor Party by Governor-General Sir John Kerr, who then commissioned the leader of the opposition. What does this have to do with the Queen? The Governor General is Queen. Ah, okay. So he's the appointed representative of the Queen. Gotcha. who then commissioned the leader of the opposition, Malcolm Fraser, as Liberal Party's caretaker prime minister, has been described as the greatest political and constitutional crisis in Australian history. Damn. Whitlam's Labour government had been elected in 1972. This is why constitutionality matters? Yeah, no shit. Australians aren't people. I don't know why we're even talking about this when Australia doesn't exist. Yeah, kangaroo people, kangaroo court. All right. This looks pretty fucked. How fucked was this? Constitutional monarchy is more complex than... Okay, so here's the issue here, okay, chat? If I said... Guys, if I said... Would you rather live under a monarchy? And then some of you guys are like, I live in the UK. This is a monarchy. Can you understand how you would be a 40 IQ loser? Do you understand how you would be the loser there? You realize you are the low IQ loser. You're the loser and the failure. You realize that, right? Because when I say monarchy, I don't mean ceremonial monarchy where all roles of government are functionally fulfilled by an elected parliament. I mean a fucking monarchy. And the addition of constitutional doesn't change that, because most monarchies for a long portion of European history were somewhat... No, it doesn't make a difference. Constitutional monarchy, that's just an adjective on top of monarchy. The UK is ceremonially a monarchy and ceremonially a constitutional monarchy. So why is it okay to assume I mean a fucking parliamentary government when I say constitutional monarchy, but it's not okay to assume a parliamentary government when I just say monarchy? Some of you are saying it's bae, but I actually just think a lot of you people have no fucking idea what you're talking about. Just say absolute monarchy to avoid confusion. I didn't realize I would have to be fucking bear wrestling the fucking 40 IQ Wojaks in chat today. You're right. In the future, I'll be super clear with my language, okay? But just so you guys know, the monarchy in the UK isn't really real, okay? It's a ceremonial power figure that they all simp for, okay? The actual political power is controlled by the bourgeois and the elected government, same as every other fucking democracy around the world. It is not properly a monarchy, okay? It's a monarchy only because they never got around to abolishing it. It's a monarchy because they have nendoroids of the queen that they don't want to all fucking trash, okay? That's the only reason it's still a monarchy, okay? When you specify constitutional monarchy in the year 2020 implies a post-liberal society, what the fuck do you mean post-liberal? And when was the Magna Carta written? 1215! You know nothing of your own country's history. Constitutional monarchy started, there were on and off periods, but in the UK, almost a millennia ago. That's not post-liberal. You mean constitutional monarchy? Well, that's constitutional monarchy. That's basically like 2016 after, right? I got involved in politics around Gamergate days, and I noticed there was a monarchy and a constitution. So that's pretty much when it started. So when you say constitutional monarchy, I assume you mean, you know, like in the past couple of years. Okay, wait. I missed you guys. I hope you all know that. It's true, Pigwog. I missed you guys. Okay? I love you all, okay? I love you. We have some monarch simps in chat. You guys gotta... Yeah. I'll tell you this much, okay? If you believe that the Queen has any real power in the UK, you're not a Marxist, because you do not believe in material conditions dictating the course of political history. Vaush, the Magna Carta is not a fucking constitution. You're so confident. You're so wrong. Holy shit. Constitution is a... Let's look at the definition of a constitution. A body of fundamental principles or established precedents according to which a state or other organization is acknowledged to be governed. Well, since we're talking about a body of fundamental principles dictating the behavior of a state or organization and how it is governed, and the Magna Carta is a charter dictating the principles by which the monarchy can reign, even though it's not called the Constitution, I'm fairly confident that it applies. All right, chill. All right. Oh, God. This is why I wasn't streaming. Vaush, the Magna Carta is literally referred to as the world's first constitution. In the book, The English Constitution, a book written about the Magna Carta. Dude, that's crazy. Magna Carta still forms an important symbol of liberty today, often cited by politicians, campaigners, and is held in great respect by the British and American legal communities. Lord Denning described it as the greatest constitutional document of all time. All right. I feel like I've addressed this to the greatest extent of which I am capable. Okay. I missed you guys. What were we even talking about? Okay. Okay. We're back. We have one more question. And I've saved the best for last. Ugh. This person actually emailed me. Okay, hold on. Okay. This person actually emailed me, my original email account, before I even did the damn video where I asked people to email me. From migraine sufferer. I thought I'd try my luck, getting ahead of the pack and sending you a question. My biggest question for leftists is how they can support mass immigration and amnesty while claiming to be pro-worker and pro-environment. The influx of cheap labor caused by immigration hurts the middle and lower classes more than any other demographic. While working in construction, I saw non-union bosses use cheap illegal labor to cut costs. These were projects that were happening in minority communities that could have produced jobs in these areas, but instead used foreign labor at prices no one in that community could work for. On this site, there were even protests by community leaders to the practice. Even with legal immigrant labor through H-1B visas, the recipients are paid 10% less than the industry average, and huge mega corporations pocket the difference. How can somebody graduating with college debt compete with that? With the environment, many organizations like the Sierra Club were anti-immigration in the 1980s. This was because they saw it as prolonging of cheap labor and a recipe for vast stretches of hovercrowding and resource consumption. How is supplying mega farms with seasonal labor good for anyone but those corporations? My ideal solution is cracking down on legal and illegal immigration, This cuts off the supply of cheap labor, meaning construction sites have to hire people in the communities they're building in. Forces corporations to hire out-of-college graduates at a living wage, cuts down on urban sprawl, slumlords, and resource consumption. Okay. The downsides to this would be that goods get more expensive, but I think that's a good price to pay for your community to be able to sustain itself. All right. So we got a couple of points to break down here. First of all, because I want citizenship for all of the people in this country, or at the very least, I want a path to citizenship, you can't blame me or lefties or whatever for our positions on illegal immigration. I do think it's a travesty that illegal immigrants are paid under the table, a quarter the wages of their legal compatriots, but I don't want there to be any illegal immigrants. I want them legal. So that's, not not something that I can really address. I'm not defending that at all. With regards to the influx of immigration hurting middle and lower class workers, that is actually not the case. I've gone over data point after data point after data point on this. The only American demographic whose wages are lowered by the influx of immigration are domestic workers who dropped out of high school. That's it. Everything past that point, everything past that, high school graduation and onwards, wages rise. And the reason why wages rise is because in a market economy, labor is a resource. The more workers you have in your country, the more access you have to labor. It means that there are more mouths to feed. It means there are more houses that need to be built. It's a resource that leads to an increase in the productive functionality of the country. And that means more jobs, and that means more managerial jobs, especially since immigrants tend not to come in right away as managers. They may not speak English that well, or they may just not be as high skilled as the domestic workers. That means an increase in higher managerial roles. And then there's other work too, electricians, plumbers. Everything gets better the more people there are in this country, assuming that we're working within the capacity for productive growth, which in America we are. We have a very large country, like space-wise, and it's very, very sparsely populated compared to many other parts of the world. Now, this isn't the case in like inner city New York. Obviously, the population density there is insane, but generally speaking, in this country, we can handle more people. So there are, of course, some people who are hurt by this. High school dropouts are people too. However, there is another benefit to immigration, and it is enormous, immeasurable corporate wealth. Now, as a leftist, I don't give a fuck about corporations. Why not just take the money away from those corporations and use that to feed back into social benefits that disproportionately help the poor, the uneducated, and the unemployed? Why not just tax them more? Like, if we can make society better for almost everyone, except for high school dropouts, and in the process raise trillions of dollars that we can then reinvest into society in a way that benefits the high school dropouts more than they would have benefited if they had just been able to get a job because there were no immigrants in the first place, we've made everybody better off. We've made everybody better off. Even the high school dropouts, the immigrants too, everybody is better off. There's a fundamental misconception in your email, and it's something that that nationalists really bug me about. And it's that I'm pro-worker. That doesn't just mean American worker. You say right here, I only began caring about politics in 2016 with Trump and only saw my politics reflected when I started watching Tucker Carlson in 2017. Please, Tucker Carlson is a corporate simp. That motherfucker is about as populist as the Murdoch who controls him. But if you're pro-worker, you can't just be pro-American worker. It doesn't end here at the border. You say that you want jobs to go to the people who live in those communities. Dudes, immigrants, legal or illegal, live in the communities they work in. If you've worked at a construction site and they start paying illegal immigrants under the table, those illegal immigrants live in your community. They pay state taxes. They're there. They pay income tax. They pay gas tax. They're there in your community. They provide, they live. Those are your neighbors. Those are the people you wave at when you walk out your front door to go to the car. Yeah, they, excuse me. So your suggestion that immigrants are like these other things that show up and they're not a part of the real community, I just don't think that's true. If an immigrant comes here and lives in Los Angeles for 12 years, that motherfucker is every bit as American as me when I was 12. More so, because they had a choice to come here, you know? If a person risks crossing the border to live in Los Angeles and then works for landscaping, they worked to get here in America? I was just born here. I don't give a fuck. I have money. I could go move to New Zealand or Canada. They chose to come here. They're more of an American than I am. And if they work and they're getting paid under the table, they're getting underpaid, that's fucked up. So let's get them citizenship. Let's get them registered, at least, or get a green card or whatever, so they can be paid a proper amount. And then nobody's getting undercut. You don't like that immigrants aren't paid as much? We can work on that through policy. But why make immigrants the enemy, dude? That's the lie you're being sold right now. You're being sold anti-immigration, but you're being told that it's pro-worker. This isn't pro-worker. This is just anti-immigration. If you really wanted pro-worker takes, I mean, we can get pro-worker. We can talk pro-worker. We can talk about democratizing the workplace. We can talk about radical unionization. Does Tucker Carlson talk about unions? Unions are the #1 way of ensuring workers' rights in the country. I notice he doesn't talk about them that much. Maybe a reason for that. Maybe because his Murdoch, his boss, the guy who he said he is honored to be caned by, reflects the business interests of the people in this country. It's just interesting that these billionaires are selling you workers' rights ideas that don't include unionization, but do include getting rid of immigrants. I'm encouraging you to think about that. There are problems with how immigration is handled in this country, and there are negative consequences to immigration. But there are many positives as well. And in my mind, and from the research I've seen, those positives vastly outweigh the negatives by orders of magnitude, by huge, huge, huge orders of magnitude. It's just a matter of where those benefits go. And because of people like Murdoch, and because of people like Tucker Carlson, those benefits tend to go to the wealthy. But they don't have to. We can fix that. We're capable of fixing that. And that's the pro-worker position. Workers of the world unite, you know? Okay. That was 11 emails that I just went over. That was a lot of fun. There are still literally like 1,000 that I have to go through. And that was a lot of fun. I still don't know what I'm going to title this segment. I don't know if I'm going to title it like Questions from Conservatives or something like that. But I'll find a way. And we're going to do this fairly often from now on. I don't mean like every day or whatever, but we're going to keep doing this. Because I do not want to be an echo chamber. I don't want to be that socialist YouTuber who exists only to dunk on the conservatives or whatever. I mean, if they come on here and they're a bitch, like, yeah, I'll dunk on them, sure. But I don't want my advocacy to be limited to antagonism. So, it's just my opinion. I'm cutting out that monarchy bit, by the way. Oh, God. All right, folks. Yeah, I'm cutting that shit out. Fuck all you. Listen, I didn't want to do this, unfortunately. Some confluence of fate led to me overexerting my voice. And for that reason, I feel as though I'm about to hack up a fucking lung. So, I'm going to chill. And when next I stream, I'll cover the donations that you all so generously awarded me this stream. I apologize, as always. I don't know when I'll next stream. If I'm feeling good, it'll be tomorrow. Otherwise, 2 days. I am feeling better than I was a week ago. But yeah, what are you going to do? I love you all very much. Pray for me. I've been playing Age of Empires 2, Definitive Edition, in my off time. And I think I've gotten a little decent. I can beat hard AI about 2/3 of the time now. So much harder than it was back when I was a kid. You know what they made it? They made it so it doesn't cheat, too. The AI doesn't cheat. The AI used to cheat. They would just get money out of nowhere. But now, you raid a gold mine, they don't get gold. You know? Like, that's it. They don't get gold, no more gold. You gonna play Cyberpunk 2077? Probably. Peace out! And happy Thanksgiving.